But I own up to anything.
Well, it ends in U, and that was...
Old German name in Shire Bashful.
It's a contracted. Okay. Where were you born? 1946 in Merrill?
Yes, I was born and raised here.
And volunteer what? USA?
United States Air Force.
Oh, USAF.
Mm-hmm.
And 1965. And where did they send you first?
When I first went in service, I was down at Lackland for almost a year in crypto maintenance school, and then...
Don't get away now.
Okay.
Crypto maintenance school?
Crypto maintenance. Coding and decoding.
I mean, this is right after you had basic training?
Right after basic training.
Is this something they asked you to apply for, or you knew about it and applied for it?
No, I didn't know about it. They put me in it. I had no clue as
to
special
talents
what I was going into.
Right, but you had no talents that attracted them?
Electronics background.
That what did it?
That, and I scored very well on the test going into service.
That's what I was waiting for. Okay. That's the answer I was waiting for.
An embarrassing high score.
Okay. Sure it was, right.
For me at the time, I was very shy and quiet in school, believe it or not.
That's all right.
And I did very well on the tests, and when the test results came back, the teachers announced it. And, very, very embarrassing for me. Because I didn't like my name known to anybody.
Oh, really?
I was one of those, if nobody knows who you are, life's better.
Safer.
Safer, yes.
Right, that's the word. Okay. Now, this school was at Leavenworth?
No, Lackland.
Lackland.
Lackland Air Force
It was
Base.
right there?
Yes.
And what did the school consist of?
The school consisted of basic electronics to begin with, and then we were a lot of security training as far as what you can say, what you can't say, so we had some kind of background in what we could do, or what we could say, what we could tell our parents. And then it was on equipment that coded and decoded messages, electronic equipment. It was about 9 months of school.
What you could tell your parents? What's this?
The equipment we worked on was highly classified, and we knew a lot of things that were highly classified. We were told we could tell our parents, I work on equipment that codes and decodes messages, don't ask me any more questions. Of course, most of our parents were aware that something was going on because of the background checks that were done.
What's that?
The background checks for the security clearance at the time was top secret crypto to go to school. But with the crypto access, and the crypto just means decoding.
Mm-hmm.
They would send people to, like for instance, they sent people to Merrill who would talk to references that you put down on your application. And they would ask those references for people that they knew that maybe knew me. They didn't actually interview the people who you put down that are the ones that are going to give you the good references.
Right.
They talk to people who like you, don't like you, and whatever.
They wanted to check out those references.
Yes, and from what I understand, back in those days, and that's back in the early 60s, that was, or mid-60s, that was like a $50,000 proposition. At the time, it took several weeks. As a matter of fact, I didn't get my final clearance till almost a year after I was in service.
The FBI show up at your folks' house and say, hi there?
No, they never talked to my parents. They talked to some of my relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, who referred them to friends, their friends, the bars I hung out at before I went in service.
Looking back, what do you think they were looking for? Bad behavior or connections with unsavory people, or what?
I think they were looking for stability. Maybe the ability to keep a secret. Be able to be somebody's friend and not say something about them, and not do too many crazy things, get in trouble with the law, things like that. They're looking, I believe, for people who, counterintelligence people, could maybe get something on. Financial trouble.
So you had a weakness that somebody could exploit.
Yes. Went to school with a couple of those guys that are in jail for forever.
All right.
That sold secrets to the Russians. Yeah, it was newspaper stuff.
Went to school with them. They were in your class?
In my class, yeah.
And then later this happened.
We even had them that were picked up right in class. We were at Lackland. We were at the.
Jesus.
Oh yes, we had
That's pretty
undercover people going to class with us.
They weren't plants to ferret out other people? I mean, they were really spies?
No, they were looking for people that shouldn't be in the program, that were doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Plus, also, they were looking for spies, that type of thing. People that were selling secrets, things like that. But I've seen people. We would go to the roller rink before class started, and you weren't allowed to draw diagrams, any of that stuff. There was no homework. We were told when you went to class, you learned everything there, and when you walked out the door, you forgot everything. Of course, some people took that literally. That's why only a third of our class graduated. But we had guys that would draw the diagram, and all of a sudden somebody comes, one of our classmates whips out his wallet, and away they go. They were drawing a classified drawing on the table, and of course they rub it away with their hand and stuff. But
and then this one of these plants who was observing all this,
he would take them away. They'd
from
be
the
under
FBI
arrest.
or
I believe it was probably OSI.
OSI
from the military.
Yeah, that's inside military. It doesn't know.
And then also we had a guy when I was back down TDY for a piece of equipment after I was stationed at Antigo. I had to go back down TDY for a piece of equipment, and there was a guy in my class. We found out later they were just working on getting information to see what he had all done.
Well, a student really is not far enough along to have access to really sensitive information, is he?
Yes, the equipment is classified.
I mean, the stuff that they want you to learn was classified.
Yes.
So right off the bat, he was a security risk potentially.
Yes.
Right before you even passed.
If you know how the machines are coded and decoded and how they code and decode, you can break the code. You can understand all of the classified that is going on, everything that's being sent back and forth. And with the military, almost everything is coded and decoded. You can find out a lot of information just by how much food is going to the chow hall, and what type of food is going to the chow hall.
How can you find out anything from food going through a chow hall?
They already know how much food there is per person.
Okay.
And they know the types of food that would be used for, if there'd be an exercise coming up, they're going to have more people eating on base. Different things like that. If they're going to send units out, if you happen to be at a base that has a TAC unit or something like that, different things would be ordered out of the ordinary, where that would be going along with that unit. If they'd be going out TDY, C rations, things. Of course, it's not C rations anymore.
No.
Different things like that. It was kind of stressful at the time going to school, because you're always worried if you were going to say something wrong or whatever.
You say something stupid that somebody would interpret as sensitive, you mean?
My sisters, when I came home, they were very nervous about us going out and having a few drinks, because your tongue gets a little looser, and
sure.
You talk to all your buddies and stuff. And I had a friend that was in electronics in school, in college, and we talked a little bit about electronics, and my sisters knew nothing about electronics, but they thought I might be telling secrets, even though I was just talking transistors and diodes and resistors, that type of thing. My parents were very proud, though. That was big time ego for them.
Oh, sure. Well,
Russ is doing something
my
secret.
son, the spy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. Was the school hard?
Yes, school was very hard. Especially the part where you weren't allowed to. There was no homework. There was nothing you could study. You had to learn it there. And the washout rate was very high. We started with 3 classes. We had A shift, B shift, C shift. And I think there might have been a few on D shift, so there was 4 6-hour shifts there.
How many?
But there were like 12 in a class. Okay. And when we graduated, there were 18. And that was after 9 months.
So when you were through this, how many months?
9 months.
9 months. Then you knew how to run the coding machines and the decoding machines both, correct?
Yes, one and the same. Coding and decoding is all done by the same machine. Send and receive.
Okay. Right. I'm sure it's highly complicated compared to what Joe Rochefort was dealing with when he solved the Battle of Midway, you know. out in the, so you know that story. Yes. And but as I say, with all the fancy electronic equipment, it seemed to me that it would be so easy for someone to bounce into that, into the network by just a few buttons and a few little this and that. It seems like it would be relatively easy to get into.
You could probably monitor the lines, transmission lines. That's done all over the world. We do that. It's because the messages went out microwave. They went out landlines. They went out satellite. But everything is coded. There is
coded by numbers, a series of numbers or a series of letters.
It's coded just like digital. Like your computer is digital, it sends a digital signal to your modem, which converts it to an audio signal. It was no different is the way it was sent. However, the letter R did not come out the letter R. The letter R could have come out anything. From 1 minute to or 1 second to the next, 2 R's in a row aren't going to be the same. An R today and an R tomorrow, or it was online coding. Everything was coded that went out. There was no way that you even knew when a message started. There was continuous traffic. So that if you were monitoring the lines, you had no clue.
Well, the beginning of a sentence, or middle of a sentence,
or a message was being sent, or a message wasn't being sent.
Is this true today?
Yes, that's true today.
And there's a continual traffic in the air, in other words.
Yes, there's continual traffic. That way you don't, who's ever trying to get a hold of your information can't. It makes it much more difficult for him because he doesn't know when you're starting and stopping.
Does it take a machine?
It's done.
To decode it.
Yes. When I was still in service, and I've been out about 15 years, they were estimating that it would take the state-of-the-art computers at the time about 20 years to decode a message. So it would be pretty much outdated or not valuable anymore at that time. But if you could get a hold of the equipment that did the coding and decoding, you have a big step up on it.
But even that would not give you a readout.
No.
Because?
There are still some other things that are classified that go on top of that.
Is that still classified?
Yes.
We're not allowed to talk about that even today?
No, we won't be talking about that. Even though they don't follow me around anymore. About 5 years ago, they quit calling me up.
Now you got to tell me about that. What were they want? What did they ask?
They were still interested as to whether or not I had any contacts with people that were asking questions that they shouldn't be asking, or if I had been to any foreign countries that I shouldn't be going to.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Things like that. You can take two crypto machines and hook them together, so one codes into the next one. The machine doesn't care what's being put into it. It's just going to code it. That's another way of making things more secure. I'm sure you've seen when they talk about World War II and the Russian devices for coding with the rotors in it. That was used for many, many years, and it's a very good system. That was used when I first got out of service. That was still a viable piece of equipment. Many places still use that.
Coding like this, as was done in your experience, your time, was this kind of thing be changed every day? I mean, it'd be a different code, and to keep moving it, so there's a constant flux.
It was changed from second to second.
Oh. Wow. But who would do that? Where would this come from? Washington?
That was part of our job.
I mean, but these are decisions made by base, or it goes higher and higher. I don't grasp.
You mean as far as when the code would be changed?
Yeah.
It was standard. It was changed. The way the equipment works, it is steadily changed. Everybody's. Whether you're coding voice, whether you're coding...
So it didn't make any difference where you were.
Right, it didn't make any difference where you were. We could send a message to anywhere in the world from our equipment, wherever we were. We could send a message to anywhere in the world in less than 30 seconds. And the new equipment's even much faster than that.
Faster than 30 seconds?
Yes, as far as transmitting a message.
Incredible.
The equipment that the military has is much, well, it depends where you're at in the military,
Sure.
but is much more up-to-date or much faster than anything that the civilian population has. Back when I was in, we had page printers that would shoot a page to the ceiling. I mean, that's how fast it would print out. The paper would come out so fast it would shoot up into the air as it's printed, because it would print lines at a time. You know, it wouldn't print a character.
Right.
It prints a whole line, and then you go to many lines. The technology is very, very fast moving.
Well, as I'm trying to, it's hard for me to get this. There's a guy sitting on a base and he's in the business of sending messages.
Mm-hmm.
Would he have to know that there's been any change in the code, or would he just stand up and that his machine would have been altered so that all he had to do is pound in the message and it would go?
He's going to come to the communication center.
Okay.
And the communication center is going to take care of sending his message. If supply is going to send out a request, everything basically on most bases goes through secure communications now, is coded and decoded. Paychecks,
Right.
assignments, everything.
Ordered for bread, for, you know.
The more you put, the more you code, the more secure your base is, the less the opposition knows what you're doing. The less they can find out about people. Or when I first got in, very little was done in secure communications. And the longer I was in, more and more. Nowadays, most telephones are secure in the military. You'd have a telephone sitting on your desk, not much bigger than this. Call up whoever you want, tell them you want to go secure, push a button. Now your only problem is...
You have to have somebody on the singular phone on the other end, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the military has hundreds of thousands of those now. The voice operated. That was probably the last 5 years I was in service.
In other words, now you just speak your message after you punch that button.
Yes, you could talk to someone on the phone.
And some unit somewhere will mix it and then
no, it's going to be done right here.
In something that small?
Right there, you betcha.
Oh, jeepers.
Oh yeah, it's quite amazing what they can do. Little handhelds. Communication with satellite, that only takes a couple watts, if that. So you know, we had a lot of units that were mobile. You could put it on a guy's backpack and.
Well, now that you're an expert, what did they do with you?
What they did with me, they sent me to Anigo, which is right down the road here. And to be honest with you, it's 30 miles away, and I never knew Anigo existed, that there was a radar site there. We were part of NORAD. We had FPS 35 radar there, which had 100 and some foot antenna on it. We covered way up into Canada, way west. At the time, the radar range was classified, which was really quite surprising to all of us, and the speed the antenna rotated. You could see the antenna from 20 miles away.
Right.
SAC ran a lot of missions against us, B-52s, things like that.
Practice missions? Mm-hmm. Testing you?
Mm-hmm. And we would test them. It was a lot of fun.
How'd that go?
Oh, that went quite well. It's going to be a little bit. I'll just lay it on Renee's desk there.
I want to tell you one thing.
Let me shut this off.
We were playing games with SAC here. SAC would run missions against us with their B-52s to try to penetrate our radar. They had all kinds of things that they would do to jam and things like that.
But they didn't look like a Bear bomber. They looked like a B-52.
Yes.
So how could they fool you then?
Well, they were just trying to run missions against us. They were pretend bad guys, and they were trying to get through our radar.
Okay.
And
without you noticing them?
Yes, without us noticing them. That can be done. Back in those days, especially.
Dropping window?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That, and then the B-52s.
The window is foil.
B-52s had equipment on them also that would absorb radar. They would pick up your particular frequency, and then they would just start absorbing it. So the radar folks, so that we could do a little better once in a while, we'd take a height finder, which goes up and down like that. A height finder determines the height of the aircraft, So you pick them up with the first sweep on the radar, and then you lock your height finder on them. Okay, your height finder is going to just keep hitting them with the radar, and it's going to burn out their receiver. So it kind of does
start screaming, "Uncle!"
Does a job on their electronics. But sometimes they would do that stuff to us. They would take our radar signal, amplify it, and send it back to us, and then it burns up your receiver. It costs government lots of money, but that's how things are learned.
Yeah, I was going to say, but that's a valuable lesson, isn't it?
Yeah. And that was a lot of years ago already. People were quite surprised at the time and awed at the sight of a B-52 coming 100 feet over the ground.
What an go, so got him important, right?
Right. We only had about 120 people stationed there, but it was really a fun place to be. Everybody was very close-knit.
I'll bet.
Had a little club there. That's where I met my wife. We had a little NCO
was she in
club
the service?
there. No. She was one of the girls from downtown.
Oh, she's a local girl.
The rule at the gate was if some girls come in, you just wave them up on base, and if a guy comes, you stop and ask him what the hell they're doing there. That's no lie. That's the way it was. We had a lot of fun where everybody knew everybody there.
I'll bet.
I worked switchboard a lot for something to do. I only had a couple pieces of equipment to maintain. We'd pull pranks on people. My poor chief of maintenance, I'd call him up. I shouldn't say call him up. I'd call his wife up on Friday and say, "Did the captain get a hold of you?" And she'd say, "No." I'd say, "Oh, okay. Maybe it was somebody else." She'd say, "Well, ring him for me, will you?" And on Friday afternoons, they were over at they had a little room set up for like an officers club. But if anybody's wife called, they had to buy.
Oh, that was the rule? If your wife called, it was...
You had to buy.
It's your turn.
I had his wife call him about 3 times a month anyway.
So, and what was your rank at this time?
I was a E3 Airman second class at the time when I got there.
But your MOS was
306. I was crypto maintenance.
Okay.
By the time I was leaving there, I was a E4 Airman first class at the time, which now is sergeant in the Air Force, which confuses a lot of us older guys. From when I was stationed at Antigo, then I started getting orders to go to Vietnam, back, off and on and off and on.
What do you mean off? What's off? I mean, rescind the order?
We would get a message down, and at the time I had plans to get married, and all of a sudden I get a message come over. I'm being sent to Vietnam with a very short notice.
Acrobatics, right.
I call my fiance up, now my wife, and say, "I got orders to go to Vietnam."
Put it in tears. Right.
Yep. 2 days later, they'd cancel my orders. Back and forth. I think I had 7 sets of orders by the time I went. I got married on May the 6th, and 21st or 22nd of May I was in Vietnam. I got a telegram when I was on my honeymoon.
Wonderful.
It was really great times. I had to let the commander and the first sergeant know where I was going to be when I was on my honeymoon.
Oh, they must have been delighted to call you.
Oh, yeah. Commander was a very nice man.
He had a chance to get back at you.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there. Guess what I got for you, right?
But he saved me getting paid. I had, with these orders going off and on all the time. He was from Kentucky or Tennessee. Didn't like the roads up here in the wintertime, so I was from Wisconsin, so I would drive him down to meetings down at our headquarters at the time was down in Madison for division, so I'd drive him down there once in a while, and seeing as I was getting these orders, my pay records back in those days, they were sent to Vietnam, so they were gone, so I wasn't getting paid, and my pay at the time, I think, was $120 a month,
right.
So I was poor. I was chasing women and no money.
That's one of the problems when you're moving in the service. No pay, you see. They only pay you when you're stabilized. So as long as it takes you to move, you don't get any pay. Good, you get it eventually, but for the moment, it's tough.
Yeah. He says, "Well, come on down to Madison." I drop him off at a hotel where this meeting is, and he says, "Go down to finance and get paid." He says, "Use your ID card." And at the time, I was still a two-striper, which is a nobody. Walked into finance, and this senior master comes to the counter and says, "Can I help you, Airman?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I'd like to get paid. I haven't been paid in a long time. My records were sent to Vietnam." He says, "We can't do nothing for you." And I said, can I use your telephone? He says, what the hell for? I says, call up Colonel Stiles. He says, what do you want to call Colonel Stiles for? I said, Colonel Stiles says if I don't get paid, I call him up and I'll get paid. He says, well, let's see what we can do for you. How much money do you think you need to have? Paid me right there.
Get you out of his office.
Get me out of the office and keep Colonel Stiles off his back.
Right.
Because Colonel Stiles was very much a person type guy. He took care of the people at the site. Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
So now, with all your expertise, we're going to put it to work.
Yeah. Now I get sent to Vietnam. So I go to Vietnam, flew into Tan Son Nhut. That was my first experience of taking a shower where there's women washing clothes on the floor. We get there in the middle of the night, and of course the Air Force is so intelligent. We go there and dress blues.
That's right. Must have been hot on us, bitch.
Yeah. You know, it's like 100 degrees, humidity's 100%.
You got your winter uniform on.
Which we've been wearing for 24 hours or more.
Well, you need it, man, to go. Yeah, right. Okay.
You get there and you get a place to sleep, and they find out where the shower is, and you go down there, take a shower, and there's the, you're in there taking a shower, and pretty soon you hear some voices and Vietnamese women coming in, and they're doing laundry on the floor.
From the shower water?
They're on the showers squirting down on the floor, and they're scrubbing clothes on the floor.
So you have to walk between them to get your shower?
Well, you're already taking a shower. I wouldn't have walked in there. I was too shy at the time to be walking around naked in front of a bunch of women, especially ones I didn't know. But that meant very little or nothing to them. Then you wake up the next morning and they're looking for where I'm supposed to be. All they know is it's Dead 11, 619th TAC Control Squadron, and nobody seems to know where it's at. One of the people over at Transport thought it was up by Cameron Bay somewhere, so next thing you know, I'm on a 130 or whatever it was at the time. I don't remember for sure what it was.
Transport comes sometime.
And up to Cameron Bay, spend the night in Cameron Bay. The guy there says, gee, I think that unit used to be here at some time. He says, but it's not here anymore. I think it might be up by Nha Trang. So I fly up to Nha Trang, and I'm up at Nha Trang for 2 days, and then finally I find somebody that says, you see way out there in the bay, that island out there? That's Dead 11, 619 TAC Control Squadron. That's Entree Island. That's where they're at. How do I get there? I don't know. Had to do some more checking around. The next day I found out they had a LST
brought supplies over there.
that ran back and forth. So I hopped on that and go out to the island and find out that, boy, that's the boondocks out there. Other than it was a very, very pretty place. Very green, beautiful beaches.
How big was this island?
Oh, I believe it was 7 miles long. The bottom site where we lived at was its narrowest point. That was maybe, a quarter mile wide. Halfway up the mountain was Army Microwave Relay television station, radio station. And at the highest peak, that was where the Air Force, we had our radar radio. And we also had Hawk missiles up there.
So this is the 2 units on that one island?
Yes, we had Army and Air Force. We lived together in the same area. The Army was on one side of the road, the Air Force was on the other side of the road. It was just a dirt road.
How many people were speaking of here?
Approximately 200. 100 Army, 100 Air Force. And then we had a little chow hall down there in the bottom side.
Did you share it?
Yes, we shared it. Food was a lot different for us Air Force folks. We were used to a lot better living than they had gasoline stoves, we had no running water. Most of the time we didn't have electricity. Dirt roads, we lived in, we called it a hooch. We had like 12, 14 guys, concrete floor, screen wall, tin roof. That's what we lived in. There were no bathroom facilities. Bathroom facilities was you go outside and take a leak. The commode or whatever you want to call it.
The slip trench?
No, we weren't even that fancy.
On the ground?
It was on the ground. Things got a little different as we were there for a while.
After a while, that becomes a problem.
Yes, it got a little on the right side in places, and people started, maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But it was rather primitive, and the place had just got there. You know, like for a year I never saw hot water for showers, anything like that. Everything was cold water. When we got it, because that had to come from the mainland. We didn't get water on the island.
Otherwise, yeah.
No, we didn't get water on the island, I don't think, until the last couple months I was there. They were drilling, but there wasn't much to be found there. So the truck would come from the mainland, they'd bring it over and fill up the...
And the LST comes once every couple of days?
No, the LST made trips, probably 5-6 trips a day.
Oh, well then they had plenty of food.
Yeah, if you want to call it food, but we were still living in the Army conditions, which was the gasoline-powered stoves, the gasoline refrigerators. Officers and enlisted ate different menus. Instant potatoes, instant eggs, instant milk. And the tough part was, as you were going through the line, if you were enlisted, you got the instant. If you were officer, you got different food. You got real eggs. That was the Army. That was the Army method. Yes.
Geez, I was in the Navy. I got those powdered eggs, and I was an officer on a hospital ship. Oh well, it's too late to complain, I guess.
Yeah. Now the bad part was, well, when you were eating was the flies, and it was the same food all the time. We basically had the same meals every time. There would be flies in the food, in the bread. You know, all that was baked there. All the rolls were baked there. At first, when you got there, you didn't eat the stuff because it had flies in it. After you were there for a while, you picked the flies off it, and then you opened it up to see if there were any in there, and after a while longer than that, you just ate it. Well, the powdered milk had flies in it most of the time.
I
literally, we would break into the coolers at night and steal food to eat.
Your coolers, not the Army's?
No, it was the Army's. Yeah, it was a joint thing.
Yeah.
Army ran the chow hall.
So what did they have in the coolers? Just more of the stuff or something different?
Oh, they had things like bacon, which we couldn't get. They had
for the officers?
Ham steaks, which we couldn't get. They had salad dressing, ketchup, mustard, tuna, something that we could make snacks out of. Most of us, my shift worked generally 14 hours. And then after that 14 hours, we would come down and we'd fill sandbags, and we'd have to do it. Our shift would have to do 1,000 sandbags, just daily replacement.
You put these around the
perimeter. Most of it was up at the top site.
Where the missiles were?
Mm-hmm. Where the missiles and our radar and radio.
But you didn't run the missiles?
No, I was crypto maintenance, and I also ran maintenance control center, which was our voice communications with our headquarters as far as the status of our equipment and things like that. We would set up the maintenance schedules, things like that. If something was down, like say the radar was down, that was classified that the radar was down. I was responsible for the getting out the code books and calling up our headquarters on our landlines, calling up our headquarters. Actually, it was landline and then microwave.
Yeah.
But calling up our headquarters and telling them in code that our radar was down, who was calling, that was coded, and the code for what was down, why it was down, that was all coded, and what we were doing about it. And that code changed quite regularly. That was just kind of like an additional duty. Most places I've been at, I've been crypto maintenance, DESTI maintenance, and anything else they could throw at you that was classified, because we were considered that we would handle this stuff quite well. We could handle the classified and not make too many mistakes with it. Mistakes are always made, but the name of the game is to do as few mistakes as possible. And then while in Vietnam, I was there, the Air Force expert on KW-26s, which is a piece of crypto equipment.
Oh.
So if people would have problems someplace else, they would call me.
To repair it?
Yeah. I had to fly into, once in a while, I'd go to someplace and have to fix their equipment if their maintenance person couldn't fix it. One time I had to go fly into BAMI 2 on emergency tech assist. That was over in the western part of Vietnam, close by Cambodia, Laos.
Oh.
Their equipment was down. It was a very exciting trip on an Australian Caribou Me and another guy flying in there. It's another one of their transport planes.
Yeah, I assume that, but I can't think of it.
I don't know that we carry them on the Air Force inventory. It's a smaller transport.
Okay.
But the Australians were the twin engine, yeah. The gate in the back come down. Carried about, I think 4 pallets they could carry in there. And I think that's about the one that I was on, carried about 4 pallets. Smaller pallets than what would be on a 130. Palletized material that would be sent on.
That's, it's the stuff they load the equipment on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I got called there for emergency tech assist, and
well, you had to carry some tools.
No. Every shop would have all the equipment that would be needed. Most of it would be electronic equipment. No, didn't have to worry about that, but it was a transport plane going in there, so it's the first thing you had to go on. So that's how we had to go, and pretty soon the loadmaster comes back as we're flying over Vietnam and says that we're probably going to take some ground fire when we're flying into the landing strip at Bammy 2, which is, the landing strip was a few miles from the town where the radar site was.
So you grab your balls and hope they...
Yeah, and all of a sudden, ding, 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 and you see the, he says, we'll be going in fast.
No shit.
And then pretty soon you see the light coming through the holes in the side of the airplane, you know.
Oh.
We got shot up fairly good going in, he says, and when we get down on the runway, as soon as we hit, the tailgate's coming down, and as soon as we slow down enough, we're swinging it around, everything's sliding up.
All the pallets are shoved off.
And you guys are out of here. You just take cover, because it's not at a base now. This is just a semi-insecure runway. So they drop us off, you know, we land, thing slides around, me and this other guy are off, the pallets slide off, and there he goes, shooting all over the damn place, and we're standing in the middle of this runway. Here comes a couple of Jeeps with some security folks on them and M60 machine guns, and it was, you know how to shoot one of these things? Yeah, just start shooting at the jungle, and away we go.
It to you?
It was mounted.
Oh yeah.
It was mounted.
So they asked you to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
Which you'd never done before.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Had done that training before going to Vietnam. We had fired M60s, and also in Vietnam, the site I was at, plus 50s. So away we go down the road and
shooting up the sidelines and.
But that didn't last too long, and
right, you're clear.
And we were clear because they were just around the airport seeing if they could knock an airplane down mainly. So I get there and I was quite good at what I did on the equipment. It was relatively easy to fix. Took me about half an hour. Had to stay there overnight though, and it was relatively quiet. Oh yeah, their food there was quite good. Their food there was quite good at that little really remote site. But that was an Air Force site. Air Force chow halls and Army chow halls are two different things. But I spent the night there. That was relatively quiet. Next day flew out, no problem. But then that night when I got back, then I had to work my shift when I got back, and then on the radio that night, that was one of our sites. They were calling in as they were losing stuff. They got almost overrun that night. It was a very good place to be away from.
The place you just left?
Bammy 2, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were down to the perimeter around the radar.
Where you just were?
Where I just was. As a matter of fact, they had lost that. The area that I was in. Yeah. They just send in new equipment and wire it up and away you go.
So your repaired equipment all went?
Yeah, that was all destroyed. Yeah, pulled the pins on it and burned it up.
Oh, the
thermite.
People on the base did that.
Yes.
Before they could be.
Yeah, we had thermite grenades or thermite pads that would sit on a piece of equipment, so you could destroy your equipment so the enemy couldn't get a hold of it.
Had they gotten a hold of that, what could they have done with that? One piece.
Well,
a little or much?
They would have made us do a lot.
By switching things, yeah.
Yes, we would have, the whole United States Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, everybody that had that equipment would have had to do some changes, yes. And they might have been able to take that and decode some yesterday's traffic. So now at least you might not have some real up-to-date stuff, but you might have some stuff that
Right.
As a matter of fact, for us guys that had the clearance, we were not supposed to be captured. We were supposed to be killed. We were expendable. That was not a well publicized thing, but people with certain clearances were not supposed to be captured. We were supposed to be killed by our troops.
Tell me how they presented this to you, please.
Oh, it was just a.
Sort of unspoken?
This is what it is. The rank says you will not be put in a position where you can be killed or captured.
Right. They told Gary Powers that, and he didn't kill himself. He didn't take his pill or whatever he's supposed to do. He didn't do it.
Very few guys would do that, actually. Not that many people are that gung-ho about dying.
No kidding.
And everybody likes to breathe a little longer.
Just a little while longer, anyway.
Oh yeah, I always think
but
there's another way.
But they didn't give me any pills or anything.
No,
nothing like that. What did you think they thought you would do? Walk into some enemy fire, or just stand there and not run away, or what the hell did they think you were going to do?
If we were going to be overrun or something like that, it was basically our troops' responsibility to take care of me and a few other people.
Oh, I mean the guy next to you is supposed to shoot you.
Well, the security folks would have probably taken care of that. Yeah. That was, I don't know if that was ever done anywhere, but that was the unspoken.
This guy who just bought you a beer last night.
Yeah, yeah, he might be the one. Of course, you didn't want to have. We had bounties on us in Vietnam. Anybody that had clearances or people in communications, the VC and North Vietnamese
that was a lie.
Would pay, yes.
They didn't, yeah.
But then, you know, as you know, there were a lot of people that were captured in Vietnam that we have no clue as to where they are.
Yeah, sure.
And as far as we know, they were probably given some drugs, and you given the right drugs, you're going to tell everything you know. I don't care who you are.
I see.
We still have quite a few thousand from Korea, actually. Thousands from World War II. Yeah.
Oh, yes. 8,000 World War II have never been accounted for.
Yeah. And many of them are known to be were known at the time to be in the hands of the Russians. A lot of the Korean troops were known to be in the hands of the Chinese and Russians, and the same with Vietnam.
Right.
But you didn't think about that stuff too much.
How did you know there was a price on your head? They were just told as a group, not specific.
We were told that. Yeah, we were briefed on that. That communications people had rewards out for them. Be careful where you went. Don't tell people.
Be careful. You just went into a firefight zone.
Oh yeah, they didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that stuff. We'd be put on guard duty. I was on guard duty one night, and I normally had like 18 clips for my M16, and I had 6 rounds of ammo left when I got help. That was a rather trying time where I got to write to my sister. And
how did you go about losing those? Shooting up that.
Well, I was in a. They would take some of us Air Force types that weren't security people, and they'd put us on ground positions, sandbags up to your nose like that. We had concertina wire finally put around our perimeter and a few lights there, and give you your M16 and a couple of pop flares, and you're there to make noise. That's what you're told. You're there to make noise when they come, so we know they're coming. And the particular that time, we'd get guard duty every month or so. That particular night, I was behind the chow hall, which was jungle on both sides of you then. And I don't know how late at night it was. That part escapes me now. But the first thing was a thump in my little bunker there, and
Jesus.
I'm froze. Not jumping out. I'm
looking for that gun.
And it's the gun you had ready. The thump was a rock. Okay. They weren't supplied very well on the island. We had about 300 North Vietnamese regulars got put on the island one night, and they would throw rocks to get range first.
I mean, they want you to shoot so they know where you are?
No, they could tell where you're at. That's a piece of cake. You're there in the light. There's a light right in front of you. They would throw a rock to get the range for throwing a grenade. They'd just pick a rock about the size of a grenade and okay. But then when the grenade come, that just landed about 3 feet short, so it was this far away from me, but it was on the other side of the sandbags, on the bottom of the sandbags right in front of me.
And?
Well, that'll loosen your stool up for you. Poof, that goes off, and now it's time to do a little shooting.
So that happened?
Yes, that happened.
So then you grabbed your flare and threw that up?
No, didn't have time for that to begin with. First it'd shoot.
At any?
Because they're shooting then too as soon as the...
Oh, the grain is going off.
Yeah, the couple lights that were there, they were shot up. They were gone, so the lights were out.
You don't want to stick your head too high above the sandbag.
No, you're sitting about this high, and you're taught to put the M16, the butt of it, in the middle of your chest because you can't see the sights anyway.
Right.
And then you know, every third, fourth round depends on what you got for ammo. Is a tracer, so you can see about where you're shooting. So and it doesn't take long to use up a clip.
Right.
And then when things got a little quiet, then I'd pop a flare. But I was out of flares by the time you only have 3 flares. And I was out of them by the time I got help, but then pretty soon geez, this is my last clip. And the sandbags are getting smaller because the sand's running out of the sandbags. Yeah.
Where's the posse?
Where's the posse? And I can see the Jeeps and stuff, because you're up on one side, was like a valley. And you could see the traffic on the other side of the site. The Jeeps and stuff like that, you could hear them. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and there ain't nobody coming yet. And then the machine can get that. And then pretty soon you hear the woof. The mortar team. We had a Army mortar team there. Mortar team starts up. Now this is, well, I probably had a few clips left then yet. Mortar team starts up and they're dropping.
Hold it. Mortar team starts up.
Yeah, mortar team starts up, and they're going to put up some flares. They're going to put up some light for me. Of course, the first few they sent up were short and landed behind me. Boy,
outlining you perfectly?
Yes, outlining me perfectly because there's no other light around. Sandbags got real short there for a while. And then, I'm still doing a little bit.
Screaming at these guys I am?
Oh, they couldn't hear. They wouldn't have heard that anyway. Yeah. And then they finally start getting range and start getting them out in front of me. And then I started really getting low on ammo. You put that last clip in there, and you only put in 18 in a clip. It holds 20, but you only put in 18 to keep them from jamming. The M16 had a tendency to jam. The springs would get weak. So you only put in 18. We were only supposed to have 3 clips, but you never turned your clips back in when you left. You always gave them to somebody. So I was lucky I had 18 clips. But anyway, you put that last clip in there, and they're shooting at you, and you go 17, 16.
Right.
And boy, I tell you what, when you start getting down there, you get a little
you don't
slower
spray them, do you?
slower. No,
it's one shot at a time.
It's one shot at a time, and then pretty soon I hear like
what's that?
Jeep coming up, and then I could hear a little bit of crackling on the radio, and then they started putting mortars out in front of me, high explosive stuff. And then
no phosphorus?
Not there. Not then. They usually use them during the day. But anyway, they start putting that stuff out in front of me. Then the Jeep come up and asked what was going on. They could see where I had been shooting and stuff, and they thought that I had hit somebody. That bothers me a bit.
Why? The guy's trying to kill you.
Oh yeah, but he's somebody too.
Not in my mind.
Yeah. But,
well, we won't dwell on that. Though.
But anyway, then they brought me 2 more people, M60 machine gun, all kinds of ammo, bunch of pop flares. Then nothing happened. It was done there. Then they hit the other side of the site. Of course, that was the standard thing. Try to draw.
Yeah, they'd rush into one area and pull back as soon as we.
Yeah, they would. Well, it was see how much of our protection we could draw to that particular site, make the other side weaker. So what they did was, I was expendable there anyway, and they knew I was still shooting, so I must still be there. So they reinforced they put a bunch of more troops on the other side of the site, and that's where they ended up hitting in force. Didn't get nowhere, but that's where they ended up.
That's the ploy, though.
Yeah, that's the ploy.
Didn't you explain to your superiors that how valuable you were, and you had a price in your head, and that you shouldn't be out there in that position?
No, you never talk to your superiors like that.
It's too logical?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of logic at the time. For instance,
they knew that you had this extra value.
Yes.
But they still put you out in point.
Sure.
See, that doesn't add.
They don't care. A lot of the powers that be didn't really care. The first time we got hit there, we had no concertina wire up, no nothing. We had Army and Air Force. Okay, now you know the Army is going to be much better trained than we are as far as setting up a perimeter or anything like that.
Right.
Well, the first time we got hit, the first round come through right across the, it's just a dirt road, and right across the next hooch over, and right across from mine. Went right through a guy's bed.
I appreciate that.
Went right through a guy's bed that had just got called to work 5 minutes before that. This was like at midnight. Right at midnight, you can hear him. He's bitching and moaning that he's got to go to work and F this and F that and blah blah blah. And no sooner does the Jeep that picked him up start driving away than the round went right through his bed, blew the concrete out of the floor. But then we had troops all over inside our perimeter, and lo and behold, the only people that had weapons and ammo was the Air Force. The Army stuff was locked up in their hooches in containers. No keys for them. They busted off the locks. No ammo. We held the perimeter until the Air Force signed out ammunition. I mean, till the Army signed out ammunition from supply.
Somebody must have been court-martialed for.
Oh no.
The Army overlooked that?
Sure. The only thing that happened over that is a lot of congressmen got written, and after that the Army got to carry ammo and their weapons. The Army commander didn't trust them.
Well, that brings another whole angle. He didn't want the soldiers having the weapons without a specific reason?
Mm-hmm.
Fearing for his life?
Well, I think that could be part of it. The Army's discipline is a lot different than the Air Force discipline is, from what I see. I'm not sure how their discipline works, but I've had a lot of troops that have come in. A lot of my people who I take care of come in and talk to me, and they talk about where their officer got fragged, got killed.
Right. Friendly troops dropping a grenade in it.
And I don't know if that was in the back of their minds or whatever, but to begin with, they weren't trusted with.
Well, the morale in the Navy and Air Force is infinitely higher than the Army.
Yes.
Universally.
That's true. That's true. It was a different place to be. It was almost like a dream place. Home was a dream. Family was a dream.
Did you know how long you were going to be there?
Yes. Air Force was a year.
A year.
Unless you had to happen to come down with some sort of disease, then you might be there longer. If you happen to be one of the runners and came down with some type of venereal disease because you were running around, you might be staying there longer, which I knew some people who ended up having to stay longer.
And as punishment?
No. Weren't allowed to go back if you had.
Oh, it didn't want them to share that bacteria?
Yeah, they didn't want to share it back home, yeah. And the guys would have to write funny letters to their wife and explain.
It's too important to be sent home?
That was the standard letter.
I gotta get rid of this clap, right?
Yeah, clap and some other ones. There were some.
Well, I know the other ones. I saw a lot of them in my hospital ship.
Yeah, oh God, I can imagine that, yeah. Yeah, one of our, we had maids that would come from the, I don't know what you want to call them, mama sons. They would come, well, probably 9 o'clock in the morning and leave at 3 in the afternoon. I don't know why exactly they did that, but They would come and do our laundry and sweep up the place, stuff like that. The ones that we had were really from the sticks, though. They didn't even know what electricity was. It was when we got power and stuff. Our mama son that we had, Molly Young, her name was. She was going to start a fire to heat up the iron, to make the iron hot. She couldn't, that damn cord kept getting in the way on her and stuff. It was really quite excited when you plug it into the wall and it got hot. But that was a real, she was a real learning experience. She liked me because I was young and it was easy to say shoy, because choy,
yeah,
shoy,
right,
you know.
right.
She would laugh when she'd come in and she'd give me something. Like, I'm not much of a breakfast eater, but I was like her baby son. I was 20 years old. Mm-hmm. Here, you got to eat something.
Now, what would she do?
She would do the laundry, sweep the floor.
Everybody's laundry?
For our little 12-man area.
Your hooch, you think?
Our little hooch, yeah.
Now, your hooch was held how many? 12?
12. 12 people, and then finally we stole refrigerators from the mainland, sent the Army guy and the Air Force guy over to the supply dump, and
you nipped them?
Yeah, you take a Army E9 and the Air Force E9, put them on the back of a deuce and a half, and
E9.
Senior Master, or Chief Master Air Force.
Oh, I mean, in other words, he had enough rank that he could get this stuff, is that?
Well, nobody would question him. You just drive into the supply depot, and you take the lowest ranked people you could find, a couple of two-stripers with you, just point at stuff and have them loaded up on a truck, and then you forget to stop when you get to the gate, and you drive right on to LST and out to the island you go. We had to steal concertina wire because we had nobody trained to put up concertina wire.
Yeah, that takes.
So they won't give it to you.
It's like barbed wire, only but it's like razor blades. Mm-hmm. It cuts you ribbons.
Yeah. When I got there, the jungle was probably maybe 100 feet from the back of the hooches, and no concertina wire. Hardly nothing. We would take turns sitting out on the back of the hooch.
At night?
Watch. Mm-hmm.
Your own
we were
special
scared.
patrol.
Yeah, our own. Yeah, we'd do it by ourselves. Nobody else seemed to be smart enough.
Yeah, that would disturb your sleep. No question about that.
Yeah, that was. But most of the time, nights I was working. I worked most every night. You work 13 and then you're off for a day.
Off for a day? But there's no place to go.
You could go to the mainland. You could go to
on the LSD's back?
Natrang, yeah. You could go to Natrang, spend a few hours there, maybe get a case of beer, put it on your shoulder, bring it back, put it in your little refrigerator.
I have this feeling that if no one really bothered you, if you looked like you know what you're doing, you could drag practically anything back on that island.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Nobody bothered to question.
We had one guy went and he got himself a Jeep. Which were, very, very hard to come by.
No kidding.
Yeah, he just...
Somebody's going to miss that.
Stole one. But who's going to come to the island to look for it?
You just roll it into the LSD?
Just drive it on, and away on the island you go, and you can put gas in there anytime you want. His big problem was we had a total of about 2 miles of road on the island, and he got drunk the night after he stole it and rolled it in front of the commander's headquarters building, where the little hooch where the orderly room was. Then he got in trouble, but he got to go home.
That was bad timing.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of people did a lot of stupid things over there.
Why?
People would... Oh, I don't think a lot of them cared. After a while, sanity kind of changes. You're around... You live in a situation where what you're completely unaccustomed to. The food is terrible. There are basically no women around. And women, I think, moderate a lot of things. If there's women around, we're still brought up for that. There's no running water. You have no contact with really outside world. Work lots and lots of hours, and you carry a gun, and people are trying to kill you.
You get an attitude.
You really change. Like I say, it's kind of like after a while.
Atavistic, I think the term is.
You start. Like I was saying before, home is like dream world and stuff. It's not really there. You write letters home. I was real good at that. I wrote basically every day.
I did too.
Of course, that's the way you get mail. A lot of guys were jealous of me. They'd go down, when the mail call was at the Connex, I'd get lots and lots of mail. I have a big family, and a lot of my sisters and relatives, teachers, and they would put my name up on the board. Here, write my brother. Got lots of packages, a lot of food and stuff. And like they say on the food stuff, that was really tough to come by. Believe it or not, that was the...
It's hard to get food over there from them by mail?
Well, you could get it by mail, but that was about the only way you were going to get something other than the same stuff you ate in the chow hall every day.
Or the nip from the officers' mess.
Mm-hmm. And I would get sausage, cheese. I was known so well to get packages, I would be followed back to the hooch. And of course, a lot of the guys, not being from Wisconsin, don't know that mold on the outside of stuff don't hurt it. So I'd get sausage in the mail. I always had a clean garbage can. I'd get sausage in the mail, and it would be just fuzzy. And they'd go, oh, and I'd go, oh, damn, and throw it in the garbage can. And then I'd get the cheese, and the cheese would have mold growing on it. Damn, in the garbage can, and put their head down and walk away, and you get it out of the garbage can, clean it up and eat it. Otherwise, you had to share too much. I'd share with the hooch, but can't do the whole site that way. But some guys wouldn't like you because you got too much mail.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because there were so many people that got none. Oh, I felt sorry for them guys.
I had the same problem on our ship. A lot of guys were really depressed.
Yes. I think that was one of the biggest things that helped me keep my sanity was the contact with family at home.
Exceeded mail from home.
Yeah. Yeah. Read that stuff over and over again. The whole highlight of the day, or when we would get mail, was get those letters, and sometimes you'd let other people read your mail because they didn't get it.
They didn't get it.
Yeah.
Tell me about the disease rate. Is that pretty high?
Oh, I would say the island I was at was probably 25%.
But the girls that they would attack or share with would be these people that helped out on the
island. No, they would go. They would go to the mainland.
Yeah, there wasn't anybody on the island.
No. Well, like Mama San, if you saw a picture of Mama San,
yeah, right.
You'd have to
There's no inspiration there.
No, there was no inspiration. The only time there was really inspiration was when we would get once in a great while. They would have the what do you call them, Red Cross girls or whatever come over. They were always under armed guard. But guys would just be,
Right.
And a couple times.
You hadn't seen a girl for a long time.
Yeah. But sometimes it was really quite surprising at how the morals could be better. I can remember one time they had a stripper come out, and she was very good looking with her clothes on. But as her clothes came off, there were more and more booze and booze. Oh yeah, boo, boo, boo. Put it back on,
Oh my.
But it showed how things went. The best thing we probably got was a family group came out one time and played music and sang. They had little kids with them, which was really quite surprising.
From the States?
No, I think they were from somewhere in Europe. Had everybody crying. Little kids singing songs. Oh, that's something that touched most guys' hearts over there was kids home. We got permission to have Mama San. Her husband was an Arvin soldier, and he had his legs blown off. So she was the sole support for the family and stuff. And she always wanted to take ice cubes home because she had never seen ice cubes, And she had to have permission for everything, so she'd wrap them up in a handkerchief to take them home. She had about a 3-hour ride home, so she didn't have ice cubes when she got home. But she didn't know even, refrigerator, freezer.
That was a mystery too?
Showed her pictures of my wife from Anigo standing in front of a snowbank. She was wondering what that stuff was. And I tell Mama San it was the same as in the freezer at home. Your buku sao, you big liar, that can't be like that, But like they say, she was like mother to a lot of us, And then, we tried to explain stuff to her, and finally we got permission for her to bring her kids out to the island. And she'd get to bring one kid out, and that kid would get spoiled so rotten. Anything that kid would want to have, that kid could have. Anybody give them anything just to talk to them, and most of the people couldn't hardly communicate with them at all. Yeah. We did, Mama Son, you'd almost have to strip every day before she left, so that she wasn't stealing anything. T-shirts, underwear.
Who made her do that? I mean, who checked to make sure she wasn't taken?
Oh, we'd just say, okay, Mama Son. You know, she'd say, okay, time to go now. Okay, Mama Son. Have her pull up her blouse, see if she had a T-shirt on underneath. Pull down her pants, see if she was wearing GI underwear.
Honest to God.
Yeah. Otherwise, your stuff would all disappear.
Incredible.
Yeah. But then it was, she needed stuff to sell in the black market to support
that's what she would
her
do.
family.
Anything like that, she wouldn't use it herself.
Yeah. So we would end up, you know, after we found out about this, we would kind of help her out.
Give her money?
No, money wouldn't do her much good. Then she'd get in trouble with that. She would get stopped and searched and stuff.
Oh.
I mean, they would stop and see if they had soap with them and stuff like that, and take that off them.
Who would?
The Arvin troops, American troops, they would have to go through some checkpoints, and if they weren't supposed to have
if they had soap, they'd take it away from them.
Mm-hmm. So we would sneak stuff past all that. You know, if we had it, and then we handed it to her after she was past all that stuff, then she could get away with it and stuff. But she was really a ugly, nice woman, and they would know when things were going to be happening, when we were going to get hit and stuff like that. They knew that. I know she was upset that I was one of her favorites because I was her baby son. She was upset that we didn't have camouflage jungle fatigues, and I said, well, the Air Force don't have them. When I was over there, the Army, some of the Army had them, but Air Force didn't have them. So she went on the black market and got me camouflage jungle fatigues, which I was supposed to wear that night I went on guard duty. That night I almost ran out of ammo. That's what she bought them for.
Incredible.
Yeah. Did you wear them?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Really, I don't know. Really different. She was like people's family. She was the closest contact to a woman you could have.
Mm-hmm. Have you spoken with her since you've been back?
No, I would imagine she's dead.
Because? That's
what I would think.
Because?
Because she was helping us.
Oh, so when the communists took over,
if they would have known that what she was doing even at the time, like the lady that took care of the hooch across the street, she was killed, and her head was put on a pole in front of her house by the VC because she worked for us. Because,
yes.
Literally nothing to do with the war, but life is so cheap over there.
I expect.
Life is so cheap. Mama San didn't know what shampoo was, even. And, Mama San was probably 35, looked like she was 60 or 80, but they were like little kids if they would get something, Holler at you if you left any money out.
She wouldn't steal?
No, she wouldn't steal that. She'd wake you up. She'd wake you up and tell you, you better damn well put that money away. She says, she says, who they come and see? Mama San.
Oh, that's right. It was protective for her.
Yeah, it was automatic that she was going to get blamed for anything valuable that got stolen, and she needed that job, or else she was probably going to, her and her husband are probably going to starve to death. She had a bunch of little kids. Of course, who knows, maybe she was bringing some extra ones out too to get those candy bars and the ice cream and stuff like that we'd steal.
Good. When you're trying to survive, you do anything.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, that's like I was saying. I would have never thought of breaking in and stealing food.
Right. But thought nothing of it when you're in that situation.
No. Stick your M16 in the lock and twist it and snap the lock off, and
now we got bacon.
Yep. Canned bacon. Oh, stole a little gasoline stove from those little bitty ones. Pump it up.
Sterno?
No, gasoline. Would take regular gasoline. Heat the stuff up and bread and bacon sandwiches, steal tuna fish.
It must be just like cake to you.
Oh yeah, everybody be sitting around. They have, all the lights out. All you got is the little glow from the stove, because if people knew about it, everybody and their brother's going to be there, and you had to eat it quick because pretty soon the smell was going to get out.
Especially bacon.
Yeah. Because, well, nighttime, God, we had, we worked 14-hour shifts, and midnight chow for us was onion soup, period. Onion soup.
Every night.
Every night, no nothing else with it, no nothing. We stole sea rations to eat. And and
boy, you're down to desperate.
And we were stealing we still had stuff from World War II. That's how old the sea rations were.
Yeah, but at least got a candy bar there.
Oh, canned stuff most of the stuff was really quite good. The cigarettes would burn like a fuse.
Yeah, I expect.
But, oh yeah, boy, did we smoke a lot over there. Holy smokes, that was...
Did everybody smoke pot?
No. Very few Air Force people that I knew smoked pot. A lot of Army guys smoked pot. But they had much more access to something like that than we would. They would get access because it grows all over the damn place.
All over Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. And me, I'm dumb enough, seeing as I was never interested in that, I wouldn't even have known at the time what it looked like. Could tell you that it smelled like rope.
Yeah.
But then I have this love of life too. I don't figure your chance of living is real good if you're all hepped up on pot and you get hit that night.
So this is mainly out in the boonies with the Army and the Marines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was some minor stuff I would say that was done on the bigger bases and things like that, but I don't think most of the time it was used that much. The people that I see here that come and see me that talk about it that have drug problems, they were usually in units that were out in the jungle. They spent a lot of time out in the jungle.
What I've learned is that most of the guys,
and then they were under some pretty bad stresses. I figure I had it pretty good. So people shot at us once in a while and stuff, but
not every second.
Yeah, and I had a bed to go to every day.
That helped.
A lot of people didn't have that.
Yeah.
I had a 55-gallon drum to take a crap in. Of course, you had to burn them once in a while, but
right.
A lot of people didn't have that.
How would your specific job go? Did that seem to work all right? The equipment worked the way you wanted, and
well, yeah, I was pretty lucky there. Did that become
sort of routine after a while?
Yes, after a while, and that's always been my thing. I was into electronics when I was in high school, and after you understand the basic of electronics, most everything's digital these days, and with that stuff, it's ones and zeros that you're playing with.
Right.
And I understood that quite well. We would have some problems once in a while with temperature, things like that. But usually I didn't have too much of a problem.
Moisture didn't bother your equipment?
We didn't really, well, the problem with the equipment with moisture would be you may get some mold or something like that growing on it. But most all of us had, I can't think of what it's called anymore. You had a box with another piece of equipment in, basically in parts. And I shouldn't say toss it, you'd take it out and put a new one in and send it in to get repaired someplace if you couldn't fix it up yourself, if you couldn't clean it up. And a lot of the equipment was coated with stuff to prevent fungus from growing on it and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But usually equipment and stuff work pretty good.
Desert Storm, the problem with sand. It's just another problem.
Desert Storm with sand.
Yeah, fierce problem. I had a friend who was should go there as a doctor, and they said that X-ray equipment wouldn't last 3 months. There's no way they could keep the sand out of it.
Yeah. Our country wasted so much stuff over there. We'd get inspections so that we'd have to take our extra stuff and throw it over the side of the hill. Otherwise you'd get written up for having it. It was just amazing.
Why? You weren't supposed to have it?
You had too much. You happened to get too much. You ordered one, you got 2.
But then you're penalized if
you got caught with it. Sure. Supply, boots. I'll tell you one of the things with supply is boots. They're only authorized to have so many and so many sizes. Like so many size 8s, so many size 8.5, like that, right?
Per unit or per squadron or for what?
For our supply on that island.
Okay.
Inspectors come, and you're going to get so many because they expect you to use so many. So you don't wear them out as fast as you're supposed to wear them out, so supply has too many of them. Over the side of the hill, or else brand new ones, or else you go to work and take them and somebody's leaving. What size boots you wear? You want 6 pair?
We got those.
Sure. I knew one guy shipped a whole radio set back, complete with antenna. But it was time for him to leave, and we had an inspection team coming, and we had a radio that was a spare that had been stolen someplace else.
We didn't have we charged for.
And we just get in trouble. It just got too many questions asked. You know, because it's war is not the same game as peacetime. You know, packed it up and away it went rather than destroying it.
But he could get that through customs and all that.
Yeah, most of the time. Put it in whole baggage and ship it.
In
whole baggage. Your baggage.
To a warehouse somewhere, and then you pick it up later.
No, they come and pick it up from right when you were leaving. They give you a box to ship your personal possessions back home in. Yeah,
okay.
You could fit it in there and nail it shut. The way it's going to go, it's going to be waiting for you at your next base.
So it's whole. You say that's whole.
Whole baggage, yes.
So at the next base, then you just claim that, and then find another airplane to ship it on further.
No, it'd be right delivered to your home.
From Vietnam?
Sure, right to your home. Yeah, when you were leaving.
Well, that's an opportunity for a lot of people to steal a lot of valuable stuff.
Yeah.
And I suppose they did.
A lot of weapons got sent back home that way. That was probably the biggest thing, is weapons. But if they x-rayed and stuff like that, it was, you know, they couldn't tell what was in there. It looked like a stereo or whatever.
Yeah.
As long as it didn't look like a gun, you were all right. Pictures were difficult. You know, if you had took a lot of pictures and stuff like that, a lot of times that stuff never came back. You just never get it back.
And take those out and throw them from who knows?
You would just send your stuff in to get developed, and if it was stuff that showed much of anything, that would have a tendency to just disappear. It wouldn't be there. You know, when the film came back, or else the whole roll of film would disappear, or they'd send you a thing back and say, "Oh, here's a free roll of film. Nothing showed up on yours."
Especially after we opened it in the light, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you communicate with your hooch mates?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
No interest? No interest? You way to dismiss that quickly.
How should I say it? The Air Force, I think, is probably different than any other branch as far as putting people together. Now, my hooch mates could have been there anywhere from a month to 12 months. When they got there, they were going to be gone in 12 months. We didn't all get there at the same time. About the only time we were together, other than at work, you know, at work you just had very few people. I still know a couple of them. But the guys that I lived with, you only saw them waking hours, maybe an hour a day, if that. You know, I had maybe 6 hours to sleep a day, and that was it. Other than when we'd steal food, you'd sit down and talk and things like that. And, I don't know, tell a few stories and things like that, and try to get people calmed down. Some of them would get pretty wound up once in a while. They'd get letters from home that weren't good, and things like that. But
you bond with anybody that you'd want to see or talk to them?
No, you didn't get real close with a lot of people. I don't know if you're worried about losing them.
That's true. That's true in the rifle companies. They don't ever want to get close to a guy because that guy might be shot, and they don't want to.
You didn't do a big thing when somebody left. They just kind of left. You didn't. Otherwise, you know, you'd probably cry. When people were going home, people would get jealous that you were going home.
Oh, I'm sure.
You could usually see somewhat the fear in their eyes when they were going home, because that last night or two they weren't going to have an M16. They had to turn that thing in, and after you live with one of them for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you kind of miss that security. That's part of you, and you got to turn it in.
The last couple of nights without that gun. Yeah.
And otherwise, you had it right there. I mean, loaded.
I understand. But you had to turn that in.
You had to turn it in at least 24 hours before you left, usually 48.
That made a tough 2 nights.
Because you're always worried that something was going to happen, and what are you going to do? Because that's you memorize your serial number. The little bitty club that we had that we built out of a hooch with flare casings, the insulation that's around the flare casings. You know, you'd go in there and you'd check your gun at the bar. You know, and it's just sitting right there, right next to the bar.
Like the Wild West, right?
Yeah. And drink your beer and take your gun and go home.
Do you have you have good access to beer?
Yes.
No
After a while, we had access to beer. In the first 6 months, 8 months, the only beer you could get or booze you could get, you had to go to the mainland to get. Okay. And for the longest time, we had no way of cooling it until we ended up stealing those refrigerators.
Right.
And warm beer wasn't very tasty, and most of the time, you know, you're 1 day in 14 when you were off. That day, there was a good chance you got drunk when you got back. But you had to be in good enough shape to go and work again the next morning. And it better be a quiet night. If there had much been going on those few days before that, you probably weren't going to.
You just wanted to sleep.
Get drunk, yeah.
And the USO came over once, twice?
Yeah, just a couple of times they came over. It was more of a, okay, we're here.
But it wasn't much.
No, very, very minor. They might be there for an hour, and they might bring, I don't know, 5, 6 girls out there, and they'd play chess or something like that. But once in a while, we had a few shows that would come over, mostly like you say, strippers or something like that, you know.
Generally disappointing.
Yes.
Okay. Mail? Okay. Mail, no problem.
Mail we got probably 3 times a week.
That's pretty good.
Sometimes, yes, we were very lucky with that.
Yeah, even on board ship, we never got mail that often.
Yeah. Sometimes you'd get it almost every day. Then you might get it a week where you got it once. But most of the time, if the weather was halfway decent, you know, and the LST could get back and forth fairly decent, you'd be all right. You'd get your mail and your packages.
Yeah, no leave time.
No, not even our
weekends, but
no, I had
no weekends.
1 day in 14.
So that was it. There was no more.
There was no more. No. And if you were going to take R&R, which supposedly everybody was authorized, then there was the fear of you might be here longer if you take R&R. Because you're going to be gone and we're going to be short people, so we just might put you down for another couple of weeks. It wasn't that hard to screw somebody over and keep them for a while longer.
You have to watch your back too.
Oh yeah. And then too, you see the guys that come back from R&R, and God, some of them are really depressed when they come back, and you don't want to get the way they were.
Just the thought of going back into that life was just too much for them.
Yeah. I think it's almost scary to go back. It was almost scary to come back home. The different.
Come home, you say, or come back to your same duty.
To come back home after you leave. To leave it in a way, it was almost scary, because you learned that life, and it's a very kind of regimented life kind of thing, you know. You did almost the same thing every day. You carried a gun. You're responsible for yourself and the guy next to you. And then all of a sudden, that's going to be gone. You're going to be out there on your own, and you're going to have to act different now. I know I didn't act very good when I came home. That F word was something I was using all the time that I never knew I was using.
Yeah, I think all of us who were overseas for a time had an adjustment period, not as severe as yours, but just you all of a sudden had to start making decisions where, you know, you didn't have to make any decisions before.
Loud noises weren't good to be around.
Yeah, I expect that.
Train tracks went right by my mother-in-law's house in Haneygo. That wasn't a good thing.
Any noise? You mean that's just...
Yeah, that loud noise of you'd be at least out of bed.
Any nightmares?
Oh yeah, once in a while. I would dream through this stuff in Vietnam.
Do you recall what those dreams generally were like?
Oh, most of the dreams were repeats of stuff that happened. I can picture, like the night when I was telling you about when I had 6 rounds of ammo left, I can just run through that in my mind just like watching a movie.
It comes out okay each time, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's the same pretty much every time. You bet. And it was, you know, one of the things that seemed strange about it is it was worse after it was all over than when it was happening. It was the next day when that's when the nerves hit you and you start thinking, holy smokes, I could have got killed. You really look at your life a whole lot. Anyway, for me, it was, you know, it was like the next day, and then it was, oh wow, you know, I could have got killed out there. What would have my wife done? And I had a baby, you know. Of course, I never wrote her about that stuff. But that one, I had to write somebody, so I wrote my sister. And she took care of that. She handled that real well. She was the.
I mean, you want your wife to
sound
know about these things, but be told in a more gentle fashion?
No, she never knew. She never knew. I just wrote my sister and explained to her what had happened and that, hey, maybe I won't come home.
Yeah.
You know, there is that possibility, and can you kind of keep an eye out for her?
You could have phoned home.
No. That was almost impossible thing, yeah.
The lines were so long?
Well, we didn't have any lines where I was at. There weren't any telephones.
No, I mean the lines so where a phone in.
We would have to go through radio relay stuff. And that would have been very difficult for us to do. Even when my son was born, when I was over there. By the time I got the Red Cross message that got delivered to me while I was working, the Red Cross message was down to that my wife had a baby, and I didn't know what day or what the sex was. I mean,
great message.
That's how bad communications were that way. And the mail system was going to probably take me about 2 weeks, or maybe a little bit better. So then it was right home and mention the baby. Don't mention boy or girl, because you don't want to get too excited about one or the other and get in trouble that way. And then finally the letter would come that said,
which it was.
Yeah. Sometimes they were in the wrong order and stuff, but as far as I know, I don't recall anybody calling home from there, from the island.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know.
But in Saigon, I know some guys call home from Saigon.
Yeah, there they had regular communication lines and stuff like that. Well, I don't know if we'd have been allowed to use our radio and stuff, you know, because they were all tactical. It was all tactical equipment, and I don't know if they'd allowed us to use any of the channels to call back and forth. I know when I was in Korea, then we could, but not when I was in Vietnam. I don't recall anybody doing it anymore.
When did you go to Korea?
I was in Korea in the mid-70s. I was there. I was in the Air Force for 21 years. I was there in Korea in the mid-70s. What years would that have been? 75, 76, something like that.
And what was your duty there?
I was crypto maintenance.
Crypto maintenance still?
Still, yes.
It was quiet.
Well, most of the time it was quieter. They still would be, the North Koreans still send troops down to blow up the oil lines and do this and do that.
Where were you stationed in Korea?
Kunsan, otherwise known as the asshole of Korea. That's.
I'm not sure where that. I've been
south of Seoul, and it's on the western. It's on the China Sea.
China Sea.
Yeah.
So it's near Incheon then.
Hmm.
Well, Incheon's west of Busan.
No, this would be more in the middle of the country.
Okay.
Was another great learning experience over there. My boss, he had been there for like 7 years. He taught me to write my name in Korean and stuff like that.
Wonderful.
Was your family with you?
No, family couldn't go with over there. That was still too dangerous, too backward a place. Very, very, very poor country.
Okay, you wouldn't want to know that.
Yeah. But, you know, communications were a lot easier there. There was a lot more things to do. Alcohol was much more of a problem over there in Korea, I'd say, than
more
Vietnam.
available.
Yeah. Much, much more available.
How big a base was that? I mean,
Oh, Kunsan was a pretty big base. I would say we probably had more than 2,000 troops there, something like that, and quite a big contingent of rock soldiers there too.
Mm-hmm.
This
is an Air Force base?
Yes.
Right. And you had the big planes there, or the smaller things like helicopters?
We had everything.
Oh.
But mostly fighters. Mostly was air protection. We were back from Seoul because they didn't figure anything at Seoul would last more than 15 minutes. If there was a war, the first thing that'd get wiped out would be the airport there, where you get further south from Seoul, and most of the highways were set up for runways, so you could land aircraft all over the place there. But American soldiers probably liked more there than any place I've ever been, including this country.
The Koreans were nice to you.
The older Koreans, especially. The older Koreans, the Papa Sons with the funny hats and a little beard, they'd walk up to you on the street, shake your hand, and thank you for being there.
Really? Mm-hmm. I never had. Of course, I was there in the 50s. They weren't doing that then.
And see, we were in the sticks too, so that was a little
people are nice
there.
In the sticks.
Mm-hmm. They are. I think that's like most parts of the world. People are a little more friendly.
Phil and I have observed that many times.
There was still a curfew when I was over there.
Oh, really?
11 o'clock curfew. I knew guys over there, they'd be puking their guts out at 11 o'clock at night in the middle of the road, just waiting to get picked up because they're past curfew, and the Koreans would drag them in their house, clean them up, feed them, wash their clothes, next morning send them off to work with clean uniforms.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Really amazing how nice a lot of the people were.
How about the marijuana in Korea as compared with Vietnam?
Didn't have any contact with that at all. Yeah. But like I say, alcohol was. And well, that helped me out quite a bit too, because in the chow hall, in the restaurant part of it, I was poor. I lived on $5 a day, and most of what I had, my $5 a day, I spent on drinking. So there was very little money left over for eating well. Ramen was cheap, but they made really good ramen noodles, like kind of thing. But they would put all kinds of stuff in it, not at all like the thin crap that we eat.
What about the kimchi? Doesn't that bother you?
No, I love spicy food.
Yeah, I love that garlic
odor. The smell is bad, but it tastes much better.
Oh, I couldn't even come close to tasting it. You could smell that stuff from a mile away.
My boss would have me come down by his house.
On your breath, you see that?
Oh yeah, you could. The breath part was really bad.
Boy. But
I really had I could say a good time, except for missing the family over there. I learned so much from them and why their life is the way it is.
Right.
If the woman doesn't have children, the husband can divorce her because it's her fault. And I would try to explain to the women that the man determines the sex of the baby.
Just the opposite.
And they would just sit there amazed that I would talk to them like they were intelligent people, instead of as objects, which most of what they are over there is an object. They have to do all the work. And
these guys who had a permanent mamas on there, they pay them from their salary.
Yes,
that was plenty.
Well, they would pay them money, or you could give them, let's see, what were they all looking for? Coffee.
That would keep them with you?
Coffee, beer, booze.
Didn't they take some of that stuff and take it home to their big family?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you were supporting much more than...
You were really supporting more.
Sure. I would say probably the average wage over there, as far as somebody that was working, a Korean, he might be making $15 a month or $20 a month. And here's a prostitute making 60, 100, 150. There was one that worked at the NCO club. Oh, I think she was getting 200 and something. Very pretty girl.
But she didn't do her work in the.
She worked at the NCO club too. Yeah. Oh yeah. She probably made more in tips than anybody than the commander of the base made.
But she didn't do her whoring on the base.
No. She had a place downtown.
That was pretty well controlled. And
yes. Oh yes, that was controlled. That didn't happen on base that I'm aware of.
Okay. And you think that probably most of those girls in that brothel that whoever supported were kept A-Town, right? Were kept pretty clean. You think they had doctors keeping them and getting the penicillin moving around?
But we still had a lot of guys coming down with stuff. But from what I understand, it was free for them, and I don't think they wanted to come down with a disease any more than anybody else did. So they could go and get checked free quite regularly.
How much do they generally pay these girls?
Ooh.
You know, well,
I'm trying to think back.
I mean, whether it's cheap or
a few dollars.
a couple of dollars.
Yeah, a couple of dollars on up, depending on the girl, depending on whether the guy was sober. We had this right next to the what they call the go-go lounge. They had strippers in the club, topless dancers, put it that way. Probably 12, 14 hours a day in one of the bars. Okay, and this
on
is
base?
On base, yeah.
Strippers on base?
Yeah, oh yeah, that was every day. And like I said, you know, I spent a lot of time drinking there because I didn't have anything else to do. I was trying to be good anyway. Let's see, what time did that close down? 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning, there's they're closing down this little bar in there. It's darker than hell in there. But anyway, half the people are drunk on their ass. And they're watching these girls. And they come out of there and there's this row of seats. And most of us that were
regular
had the same mind yet. And that didn't bother us, the girls in there. Most of us went in there to drink, actually, and after a while you didn't pay much attention to the girls. There would be the old hookers. I mean the 60-plus group, but the guys would be so drunk. I just can't imagine what it would be like when they woke up in the morning. They'd come staggering out of there, and
right.
These old hookers would grab them and, "Hi, sweetie," you know, and
right.
They could speak pretty good English and stuff then, you know. And out into a taxi cab they go, you know. Well, they knew who you were after a while, if you were susceptible or not, you know.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they knew the new guys. The old guys, they knew better than,
like flies.
Yeah,
sure.
you know, and they'd seen me walk out of there too many times, and you know, after a few times of you know, I ain't interested, they'd leave you alone and go for the guys that were really plastered. God, I just and we'd laugh. We'd walk back to stagger back to our barracks and be just laughing.
Mostly beer drinking.
Yes, mostly beer.
Booze was available, but
oh yes, booze was available, but it was a little more expensive.
15 cents, come on.
Yeah, but cut down. Like I say, I was on a budget. I was on.
That's right. You
were on a tight budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real learning experience, especially being able with my boss knowing so much about Korea and taking me downtown and showing me around.
A lot of good stuff.
His wife was Korean. He explained to me a lot of the things, their reason for doing stuff. They didn't even have any swear words when I was over there.
I'm sure they do now.
He said the Korean language has no swear words. He says you have to do something like, "Your mother sleeps with dogs."
You have to give them a whole sentence.
Yeah, you have to give them a whole sentence. His wife, one of her big things was bring out the pictures, and here's a picture of her breastfeeding the boy baby.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very proud of the boys.
You know, women in this country aren't going to have a picture to show everybody breastfeeding. But for her it was, he says, for her it's, "I have a boy and I can breastfeed. I have milk. What more can I want? I'm really a good mother."
Yeah.
Did your wife, what did she live on in terms of money?
Oh, everything else went to her. All, you know.
You said home 50 a month or something.
Oh no, it would be much more than that. I had like $150 a month to live on, and she probably had $500. She lived with her mother, and the kids with her, so I would send everything home. Otherwise, you could get too much trouble. You had too much money. That was another thing.
What was another?
Money breeds problems.
Well,
you got too much to spend. I saw too many. I get to fill in for the first sergeant once in a while. So then the guys would have to come in with their letters that they would never write home, and you know they're the same ones with all the hookers. They're spending all their money on the hookers downtown and not sending any money home.
Oh.
In the comm center, you see the Red Cross messages coming in. So-and-so is trying to contact her husband.
Right, so the wives that contact the Red Cross to contact their
they haven't heard from their husband in forever. Sure. Some of them getting thrown out of their house.
How was that handled?
usually those messages went to the first sergeant or the commander, and then to the first sergeant. The people would get called in and counseled and be told, you will be taking care of your family.
Right. You've just lost your home, or maybe it's going to lose it if they don't come up with some dough.
There was a line every week, every Monday morning, over at the first sergeant's office. People to write letters home. Okay, here's my letter to Mama. Here's my money order. You know, it was rather sickening to see that.
They have to be treated like children, really.
It was a shame, but they were spending too much money on drinking and whores. But that's sometimes how life gets.
But who we're talking about? We're talking about 18-year-old boys.
No. We're talking about 18-year-old boys that would get sent back home because they wanted to marry that 60-year-old hooker.
Oh.
Plus we would be talking about staff sergeants, master sergeants, captains, majors, colonels.
Colonels?
Sure betcha. Was rather amazing.
Well,
that was pretty much hid. But I worked in the comm center, and I would see the messages coming over my equipment.
Right, but the colonel didn't send money home. That would be a significant amount because he was making a lot of money.
Sure. But he probably had that $300 a month hooker. Plus, he'd be taking her all over, traveling around.
How about guys getting married to him?
That was rather difficult to do.
Right.
You had to go through your unit to get married. They would investigate the girl, and a lot of times they would try to send the guy home.
Yeah, that was the ploy that they used on our ship. We had a couple of guys that wanted to marry, and then all of a sudden they had orders off. They just got rid of them.
But we would have these guys flying back and pick up the girl. And a lot of them were in love.
Sure.
Of course, a lot of them, it was their first time away from home and the first time they had sex and thought, boy, this stuff's pretty good. I better hang on to this one. And blind eye where they come back with the investigation and they go, okay, now this is her real name. This is how old she is. She's been a prostitute for 20 years. Are you sure you want to marry her?
But that would be the truth.
Oh, yeah, I love her. Oh, yeah.
That would be the truth. They wouldn't try to make up a story.
But if it was a young guy trying to marry a young one, they would still try to talk him out of it, counsel him, and send him back home. But
if he was determined, he could end up marrying.
Yes.
Off base.
Yes, off base.
Yeah.
Or else he would come back and marry her off base and then bring her back to the States.
Yeah, right.
That
a lot
was
of them did that.
Yeah. And a lot of them had, everything worked out fine for them, yeah. And a lot of them, there's some funny stories over there. I can remember one time, as long as my boss from over there would never see it, he woke up one morning and he had a girl sitting in a chair by the bed in the barracks, 16 years old. He had gone out, got drunk, and bought a farmer's daughter in a tavern. And there he is. He has no idea how he got her on base. She's sitting there with her clothes tied up in a bundle.
He promised her we're going home. We're going to the United States, right?
No. He just bought her. It would be like buying a prostitute. He owned her. Whatever he said, she had to do. Whatever.
What did he do with her?
He woke up and first thing was, okay, now I gotta. He was a good guy when he was sober. As well, what am I going to do now? How am I going to get her off base to begin with? And what am I going to do with her? I can't take her home to my wife. His wife lived downtown. He went out and got drunk and still had a room on base. He had a barracks room on base. He ended up sneaking her back off base, and then he took her to the Methodist Hospital in, can't think of the name of the town, big church hospital. In Korea. And he was one of the few people who had a vehicle over there. So he drove her to there, and seeing as how he could speak Korean fluently, he told her that he sold her to the hospital, and she had to stay there and work for them. And the hospital said, and run by Americans, he explained the situation for them. Okay, she can work in the hospital and we'll teach her to be a nurse. Yeah, so actually, she came out
pretty good.
Very, very good on the thing. And my boss, he thought, yeah, but he thought much better of himself after he did that. And I think after that he had a little different outlook on things.
Good. You should.
But you know, things like that happen. People would wake up and they'd find some girl in their room or something like that. And a lot of them girls, you better not mess them over. You know, a lot of them were told, I'm going to marry you, cut down the price, you know.
That's right. If they told
I'm going to marry you and take you back when I go back home.
Yeah, tell me that again, because I may have lost that. We switched there about marrying or not marrying. If you wanted to...
If you wanted to marry a Korean girl?
No, but if they became more attached to her if you...
Oh, if you told them that you were going to take them back with you, the price would probably come down. Because a lot of them wanted to come to this country. As a matter of fact, if you're up in Seoul, you could probably get paid money by somebody's family to marry their daughter.
Because
a considerable amount of money. You bet. Then the daughter could send for some more of the family.
Then we'd have 12 of them in your lap, right?
Yeah. You could probably get $5, $6 grand, maybe more than that. And at the time, that was quite a bit of money for taking a girl back.
If you married one of those girls, then of course there's no reason you couldn't bring the family back to the United States.
The family, you could only take your dependents back. Now, however, for them to immigrate to this country, once they had someone living in this country that could guarantee them a place to live, then it's much easier to.
Right. Yeah, that's why most of them do it.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff, but those guys, they'd sneak out in the middle of the night. I mean, all of a sudden they'd tell when it was time to go back home. And of course they told them they weren't married and all this other stuff.
Sure.
Then they'd say, well, they've got an exercise going on base, so I'll be on base for a couple days. Take the plane back home.
That's when I got out of the deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one night at the NCO club, the very, very good-looking girl that worked at the club, the high-priced girl, she was in love with the guy that she was living with, and he left. And then she was at the club and she was crying. She was really heartbroken.
Right.
And that happened to a lot of them. I feel sorry for them, and I think it made us look pretty bad. But you know, the majority of people weren't like that. The majority of people were pretty good.
So after this exciting year in Korea?
Year in Korea, yeah. Oh, in between Vietnam and Korea. From Vietnam I went to Florida, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. Then from there I went to England. From England
now,
to...
what would you do at Eglin Air Force Base after being in the combat? You were trained to different things.
Worked in the communications center. I was crypto maintenance again. But there I had extra duties there with the ranges that they had there. That's the biggest base in the world.
The Rangers base.
They have, as far as the size of the base goes, it goes almost all the way to Alabama, and then it goes out into the Gulf.
I know it's huge.
Yeah, and I got paid mileage to drive to work, and for a while I worked normally 1 day a week.
You're in service.
Mm-hmm.
And you got paid extra money?
Mm-hmm. I got paid mileage because it was driving on base. I think it was like 30-some miles to work on base, so I got mileage.
Never left the base. 30 miles.
Yeah. That was interesting. Get a call and say, well, Russ, you got it tomorrow morning. You got to go open up the site at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I might be out there for an hour. I might be out there for 12, 14, 16 hours. Then when the thing was over, I'd shut it down.
Training exercise.
Well, no, we had a lot of stuff where they did a lot of experimental stuff at the time with laser guided bombs. Remote controlled airplanes, helicopters, things like that.
What was your involvement with that?
My involvement was the secure communications for them. Whenever they would be doing this, we'd have to have secure communications up so that the planes could talk to each other, they could talk to the ground, different things like that. That was always interesting. place to be and another place where a lot of money got spent.
Tell me what you're saying.
You know, with money being spent, a lot of stuff with test programs are expensive. Planes would crash. There'd be so many people out there, and a lot of them civilians. A lot of civilians on that base. A lot of money gets paid to civilians compared to the military. And then practice always costs money. Practice ranges where they're dropping bombs and.
But expensive, you mean,
things like that. Yeah.
The United States.
Yeah. We had a SR-70.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a SR-71 flying out of there, taking pictures of Cuba. That was always interesting. Classified. You drive right around the road goes right around the end of the runway, and of course it's classified. When they're going to take off, sure, they roll it out. And there it goes, you know, like who can't see this big thing going up in the sky, you know?
Right.
Then they had the climatic hangar there. That was interesting.
The what?
Climatic hangar, where they put planes in to test them for different conditions, weather conditions, and stuff like that. Okay. That's about when the C-5 came out. And they put the C-5 in.
Hangar big enough for that?
Yes. It could hold 2 B-52s, and then they had to make it bigger to put a C-5 in. Yeah. Yeah. That's how my furniture and stuff got sent home from Turkey on a C-5. Imagine what that cost.
You mean nothing else except your furniture?
Well, my furniture and some other people's furniture. Yeah.
From Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Was your family ever with you in Turkey?
Yes, in Turkey they were with me both. Yeah, except when I was in Vietnam and Korea, they were always with me.
Okay.
My wife always said that she didn't care what it was like, she would be there. Like Turkey, if you go there by yourself, it's 1 year. Bring your mama, it's 2 years. Really? So we had a lot of guys that were there for 2 years by themselves. Because they'd bring mama, and mama'd say, ooh, this is pretty bad, I'm going home.
Yeah, I wanted to stay an extra year in Japan when the ship was coming home. But I wanted to bring the family over. No deal. They're happy to reassign me to Japan to stay there.
Yeah.
But now no family, so
yeah.
we never do that.
Turkey was probably the best thing that ever happened to my family.
Korea?
No, after Korea, where did I go from Korea? Greater Pittsburgh International Airport. I was stationed there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was the ranking enlisted guy on the base. It was a Guard and Reserve base, and they had a comm center there. So I was maintenance in the comm center because the military hangs on to their crypto stuff pretty tight. And then I was the base ComSec officer for the National Guard and the Reserves.
What was your rank by this time?
I was a master sergeant, and that was just regular duty again, but I was pretty important because I was the ComSec officer. Yeah. And some of the fun part there was with the communications center there, that all has to be temperature controlled and stuff, otherwise the equipment starts lying to you and stuff. But they didn't want to turn the air conditioning on, like an example, they didn't want to turn the air conditioning on. And the temperature is going up in the comm center. So you call up base civil engineers, and you got to remember now, this is almost all civilian. This is not, air conditioning doesn't go on until the 1st of May or whatever it is. They say, we need air, or I'm shutting this stuff down. Well, I don't care. So then you call up the wing commander, who's a civilian, except on the weekend.
Right.
Yeah. Call him up and say, Colonel,
guess what? This
is Sergeant Choi. I just want to call and let you know that you're going to lose all your secure communications in about 15 minutes. What? What's happening? I says, well, it's getting too hot. Civil engineer says I'm not getting any air. Why aren't you getting any air? I says, because the base regs say they can't turn it on until May 1 and they don't care. He said, they'll be right there. So and they were right there, and then they thought I was somebody. So then after that, civil engineers thought I was somebody. So
right, then now all we had to do was suggest after that.
That and then classified. They weren't used to handling as much classified and things like that.
But you didn't have to share that with them.
Well, any classified that was on base was mine. I was the one that was responsible for it.
Yeah, no, these civilians really didn't want to.
Well, there's a lot of civilians working for the government that have access to classified. So anything classified that would come on base, ComSec-wise, communications, would come to me inventoried, put in a safe, and issued at the correct time and made sure that it was destroyed properly, things like that. So you get to be an important person, kind of. It makes you, you know, one of those feel-good things, but then the stress starts building up about when you go to jail when they find this document that's supposed to be destroyed and you thought you destroyed it, you know.
Well, it didn't happen, did it?
No, no. I was always too nervous about things like that.
So how long were you in Pittsburgh?
Almost 4 years.
Jesus. Well, that's the longest time you spent in any one job up to that point.
Good duty. Yeah, other than England. England was 4 years.
Did you become a Pirates fan?
No, no. Went to a lot of Pirates games, though. That's where I bring my inspectors. When they come to inspect me, I'd take them to a ball game.
You probably couldn't get Steeler tickets. They're probably too hard.
No, no, easy. Back then, all that stuff was easy, yeah. Big, big stadium.
Yeah.
But I was a Steeler hater at the time.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, you're still a Packer.
Yeah. My boss, he was a retired Army E9. He was a GS 11, 12, something like that.
I don't know if that is.
He got paid really well. But he was an Army E9. I get there looking for housing. He says, yeah, okay, go ahead. He said, let me hold your leave papers for you. So he says, I don't want you to be charged for leave while you're looking for a house. So then they found me a house at one of the former missile sites that got closed down. So then it was time to go back home and I had the wife with me. Then it was time to go back home and pick up the kids and stuff, you know. So he says, okay. He says, here's your leave form. He said, sign that thing here. He says, I'll keep it for you. He says, how long are you going to be gone? I said, well, I'll be coming right back. He says, oh, take your time. Take your time. We don't worry about things like that here. I come back a week later because I didn't want to burn up all my leave. He pulls out his drawer, pulls out my leave form, rips it up.
Right.
I said, aren't you going to turn that in? He says, hell no. He said, everybody deserves to have an assignment like this once in a while. He says, you got to get your leave time built up. Of course, that came in real handy when I went from there to Turkey.
Right.
And you couldn't get any leave over there except Russ had the maximum built up. So it was go to the colonel and say, Colonel, either sign my leave form or sign this other form that says I can carry over more than 60 days. How the hell you get more than 60 days? Saved it up, sir. How many days you have to take? He says, I got 90 coming right now. I said, so I got to take 30 or else I lose it. So I got 30 days leave twice over there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
Getting over to Turkey, now you had to deal with the Russians.
Well, the Russians weren't too bad. It was more worry about the Turks than the Russians. The Russians, it was, we were there to get the airplanes in the air.
Right.
And so you had your gas masks and all that other stuff. No.
It wasn't a sex base.
No, that was,
oh.
Who did we belong to? NATO.
I see.
We were there to be alive for a couple hours to get the planes in the air. You practice a lot with your gas masks and your charcoal suits, things like that. Just about died in the heat, but they figured.
What were you doing in the charcoal suit?
They figured they would hit us with chemicals or biological weapons.
The Russians?
Yeah, so that they would have the base, so they wouldn't destroy the base.
Oh.
And all it takes to wipe out, we had like 5,000 people there. All it would take to wipe it out would be maybe a couple of teaspoons of the right stuff sprayed over the base, and everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead, then they had the base intact.
Then they would have the base intact.
That was your chief concern?
That was the chief concern, other than the Turks
Poison
downtown.
gas. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, they told us normally we would have a matter of a few minutes if we weren't in our suits. Everybody's plan was, if that would ever happen, you'd get the aircraft up and you go home and take your stuff out and sit outside with the wife and kids.
Let me have that in a little more detail.
So if you were going to die, you were going to go home and die with the wife and kids. They had nothing. They didn't have no gas masks or charcoal suits.
Oh, the ones that are living on base.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's.
Yeah,
Every go home.
Everybody would be dead in not too long a period of time. Yeah.
So
yeah.
We weren't worried about that.
No. Wonderful place though
because
it taught the wife and kids what poor was.
I'll bet.
Wife had a maid. She had never had a maid before and never had one again. But Fatma was a maid, and you had to have a maid to keep the Turks away from the door.
Beggars?
beggars and more people wanted to come and work for you because I was literally a millionaire over there as a master sergeant.
But how did they get on the base?
No, this downtown. I lived downtown for a year first.
Oh.
Before I got base housing.
Okay.
Bars on all the windows, push a refrigerator in the door, front of the door at night sometimes. They had a coup when I was over there. Everybody had to stay in their houses, shooting in the streets.
Refrigerator in front of the door because they'd try to break in, perhaps?
Well, that would be your only protection, yeah. Other than the bars on the windows, but the door would be the easiest one to break into. So you didn't advertise the fact too much of where you were.
So you had a car, then you drove to the base?
Well, not until we were allowed to. That was a few days where we were allowed to go outside. You could hear it on the radio, which wasn't supposed to broadcast more than the perimeter of the base, but you could hear the radio downtown, and they gave you instructions what to do. Made sure you didn't start your car from the inside. You always started from the outside in case it would be booby-trapped or something like that, yeah.
Not allowed to start your car on the inside of your garage, you mean?
No, on the inside of the car. You always reached in from the outside to start it, because if it went, you had a much better chance of surviving if you weren't in the vehicle when it blew up. That happened.
Never heard that.
Oh, yeah. That was you'd look underneath your vehicle.
Who would that be?
The Turks.
Well,
there's a group
protesting American team in their country?
Oh, yes. That hated us, that just plain old hated us. You got to remember they were on the German side during World War II for most of the time.
Till their end,
Mm-hmm.
like the Swedes.
Yeah, it was a different kind of place. They either loved you or hated you. And if they loved you, they'd do anything for you. If they hated you, they would usually leave women and children alone. But men were fair game.
Maybe shoot them?
Well, yeah, shoot them, blow them up. We'd wear civilian clothes most of the time. I think most of the time I was over there, it was civilian clothes off base.
They told you not to wear a uniform.
Right. Because you take different routes to and from work. Of course, that's pretty hard to do when you got a highway to go on. One time I got hijacked by the Turkish troops. They're just looking for a ride into town, but they had checkpoints. I got a Volkswagen bus going home, pull into a checkpoint. You got to remember, these guys hold life and death over you. You are a nobody. As a matter of fact, the government didn't really recognize that we were in Turkey, our government. If you were born there, you were born in Germany. If you died there, you died in Germany. But I'm at this checkpoint, and this officer opens up the door. All these guys armed to the teeth. He opens up the front door, opens up the sliding door, and all of a sudden the whole damn Volkswagen bus is filled with Turkish troops. And he's in front, Çabuk. That means go. You got me. Down the road I go. There's a...
No other words?
No, Çabuk. That means go, and it's this way. So it's okay.
Right.
Çabuk, here we go. I'm Çabuking down the road. And I'm not going fast enough because there's this truck in front of me. Big truck. Either little cars or big trucks. That's all they got. And the truck driver in front of me, he's not going to let me by. And he could tell I got an American vehicle because of the plates.
Oh, but sticking with me.
Oh yeah. So he's driving back and forth to keep me from going by, and pretty soon the Turkish guys tell me I better get on going by him, So finally there's a light, and I'm on the shoulder of the road, and there's only a couple lights there in the whole damn country, but I'm on the shoulder of the road next to this truck. The Turkish officer rolls down the window, well, the window was down, pulls out his gun, and takes his gun and sticks it in this guy's face in this truck next to us and cocks it and grins at him. The guy dove for the floor in that truck, let me tell you. But then it was go further into town, and I'm wondering what's the deal with me, And it comes to the point where I'm supposed to turn to go by my house, and I'm going into someplace I ain't never been before. And I drove for a few more miles, and all of a sudden I'm on the edge of town, and he tells me to pull over to the side of the road. I pull over to the side of the road. He tells me to get out.
Oh, he's like, oh boy, this is it.
Yeah. I get out. He lines them all up. Lines up all the guys, and they all come by me and shake my hand. And then he salutes me, and away they go. And I'm, oh boy.
And then you have to find your way home.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
That was a... My heart was pounding there.
I bet you thought you were dead meat.
Yeah, I did. I thought the vehicle was gone, and
I'm gone.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But that was a very different place. Very, very different.
Did your wife have trouble getting food and clothing or anything?
No, it was. I could tell you a funny thing on clothing. The women couldn't get bras over there. You had to order bras from United States. And then there was a Turkish strike on base for all the Turks that worked on base and stuff. And then they got some of the American women to do some of the stuff on base. And nobody could ever explain how come there weren't any bras. So they're in the warehouse, and the story comes out that there was 6-ounce cups, 8-ounce cups, A cups, B cups, C cups, 12-ounce cups. They put them out with the cups. But they don't know. But just funny things like that.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, and things you can't say. As far as you couldn't say anything bad about Ataturk. Ataturk,
right.
Okay, if you said something bad about him, you could go to jail. You could go to jail for tearing up money that had his picture on it. They would warn kids.
We went dead a long time.
Yes, right. We went to school. As a matter of fact, you had to go to school when you first got there for, I forget, I think probably a week, to learn customs so you wouldn't get yourself in trouble.
I mean, the base ran the schools for the new people.
Yeah. The Turks still believe that, well, they step over the back of their shoes so their heel is sticking out of their shoes. Because Ataturk said that when he came back, he was going to come back as a cat and scratch the heel of the next leader of Turkey. So they're all waiting for a cat to come and scratch their heel. So that very,
That's common then.
Yeah, and don't say peaches.
But in Turkish it means...
It has sexual connotation to it. You can't go like this. That's another one. There was quite a few things that we were taught. Don't say this or do that. Don't sit with your foot pointed at somebody. Don't cross your legs.
Don't cross your legs?
No, if you cross your legs, if your foot's pointed at somebody, that means they're lower. Like if you had your legs crossed more, that they'd be pointing to somebody over there, that means they're lower than whatever you walk on.
She's making a statement then?
Yes, you're making a statement. They're lower than the shit that you walk on.
Oh, a real statement?
Oh, yeah. So
that would bring fisticuffs or something like that?
Insult law. You'd probably go to jail. They'd probably pick you up and you'd go to jail.
I mean, that person would report to some nearby policeman and point and say, she just did this? That's all it took?
Oh, yeah. That's all it took. And you're a nobody because you're in their country. We were told that. You're a nobody. You just do what they can.
There's nothing you could say to dissuade the...
No. The speeding ticket was a guy cop sitting alongside the road, and there goes an American car. Pull you over. How much money you got in your wallet? You're speeding. He don't even have a speeding. He don't even have a gun to see how fast you're going. Nothing. No. But that's how it was.
So he just took your money. It's what it was just stealing your money.
Yeah.
Did you report the incident with the Volkswagen and the Turks that you gave a ride to?
Oh yeah, they just laughed. But you know what? Security people on base.
They just laughed.
We had nothing
no
on
power there.
No power. Very, very different kind of culture, different kind of thing. A friend of mine, his wife was running around with the Turks. Yeah, doing what you shouldn't be doing. And he went to see a Turkish lawyer, and the Turkish lawyer said, "Go get a gun and shoot him. You're supposed to."
That's the Turkish law.
Yeah, you can do that. That's no problem. Somebody messes with you.
If you catch your wife with another man, you're
shoot them both.
Shoot without any recrimination.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, but they're really tight on they're really tight on stuff. If you're alone with a woman,
that means
you better marry her or make some kind of peace with her family, because otherwise they're going to come after you and maybe kill you, or you're going to go to jail because you're not supposed to be alone with a Turkish woman.
Anytime, any place.
Anytime, any place.
Jesus Christ! Well, how the prostitutes work their streets then?
No, not for Americans. You stay away from that. Now the Turks had brothels, but they were operated by the prison system. The way it was explained to us was, if man holds high esteem, women are lower esteem, whatever you want to call it, piece of property. A lot of times the wife would go to jail for her husband's crime. Somebody else can do the time for her. And her only way of surviving is becoming a prostitute. And then, of course, when she gets out, he can divorce her because she was a prostitute.
Can he shoot her?
I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. Most places, most of the poorer countries, women are pretty much property.
Did your wife have to cover her face or anything?
No.
Wear certain clothing?
She had to cover up. She wasn't supposed to have her neck showing, or arms showing, or legs showing. And, you know, it was like 112, 113, 116 degrees during the day, and you hung clothes up on the top on the roof. You didn't hang it out back because it gets stolen. You know, a pair of jeans is worth a fortune over there. But she would have to have a long skirt to put on around her shorts so that she could go outside. Otherwise, she'd have everybody and their brother following her down the street. It was bad enough the way it was, because all American women are loose, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'll talk to anybody. I mean, the women would talk to the guys on the bus, you know, the Turks that ran the bus that back and forth to town. You know, they weren't used to that kind of stuff.
Would women speak to them?
Yeah. Seeing an arm stick out, I mean, you know, most of them don't see that. A guy, probably 35 years old, saves his money and buys a girl. Sees one walking down the street and says, "Oh, I kind of like that one," and follows her home. And Mama goes. I mean, he can't see nothing. You know, most of the places it's like that. In the bigger cities, it's a little more modern. But this is some years back already. He follows her home. Mama goes and checks her out, makes sure she's a good girl, and then the fathers get together and see if they can make a deal, and then they sit cross like this. That's as close as he's going to get until they're married. And then she's going to go live in the compound that he lives in. You know, I consider it kind of like the time of Jesus, where you had the wall around the little area where you lived in, and a lot of the places are like that. And when you get out of the big towns, women don't get out much.
Yes,
but very hospitable people. One time we all hopped in our vans and buses and stuff and went up to Feke, up in the Tarsus Mountains. I don't forget how many hour drive it was. Windy roads, you know, really backwoods. We're going looking for carpets. And we go into town and we heard that there's a nice carpet store there, and in the sticks it's cheaper. Always. So we go in this carpet store, and this guy sees us coming in. The first thing he does is shoos us all back out, closes the door, locks them up, and we have to go over by his house because he has to honor us because we honored him by coming into his business. We go to his house. They offer cigarettes, coffee, tea, beer. The women made cherry juice, squeezed by hand.
Your wife was with you?
My wife was with me, yeah. Okay. They weren't used to the women being with like that up in the mountains and stuff, but they accepted it. Their women were pretty much covered up and stuff. And then they fed us some stuff. I don't know what it all was, but then back down to the store we go. Then we can see all this stuff. Next time we come back, which was, I don't know, maybe a month later, all of the women got purses that were hand crocheted by the Turkish women.
Oh, they knew you were coming.
But we told them that we'd probably come back.
Oh.
So they presented them with all that. One of my kids got sick in the car and threw up on his shirt. They went down and bought him a new shirt. Very much, very hospitable. You go into a store, the first thing they ask you is beer, Pepsi, chai. Beer, Pepsi, or tea. And there's a big bag sitting there with cashews. And you can walk around the store. You're not being charged for anything.
This is an ordinary department store.
Yeah, well, they don't really have department stores.
Yeah,
yeah. Little old shop where some guy's making something.
Did you buy a carpet?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have a few. We send some home.
Yeah, I'll bet. I love it.
Yeah. But the thing you got to remember is the good carpets are made by little kids. They're the only ones whose fingers are small enough to make those knots.
Did you ever go and watch that being done?
No. We just had, you'd go in a place and they'd have 100 of them and they'd start rolling them out for you. See what you wanted.
What would that cost?
Oh, anywhere from probably $80 to $10,000. Because some are made out of silk even. And you can imagine how much time it takes to, find silk is. But those, we usually didn't go to those high class of places. And most everything's done by hand.
But still, a rug, an Oriental rug for $80 is steel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a really learning experience. Then you go downtown and go shopping for vegetables, and it's much like the San Joaquin Valley of California. It's their vegetable area. As a matter of fact, the Army Corps of Engineers built their system for irrigation there. Food, just like you wouldn't believe, and they give you some to try. You walk in there and their watermelons are the round ones, about like this, like a big size softball, and the guy's got a horse cart there, and he's got 500 of them on there, and as you're walking by, he'll just take one and stick it in front of you, and then he takes his machete and he cuts it in half and cuts out the middle. Here you go, you want to buy some of them, And, they were like 8 cents a piece or 7 cents a piece. And our problem was all we knew how to say was kilo and kilo. That means half a kilo. Yeah. And, in kilos you're 2.2 pounds. So when you're buying green peppers, you're going to get a lot of them. But it was dirt cheap.
The fruit and all the vegetables are good?
Well, we were all told we were supposed to wash this stuff in bleach water. Just like we were supposed to put...
Bleach?
Mm-hmm. We put Clorox in our drinking water downtown. Oh, that's bad. But you had to do that to kill the bacteria and stuff.
You drank that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You ever used to that?
No. It tastes really bad. But we did get past the part of soaking all the fruits and vegetables in bleach water, because it tastes terrible. It tastes terrible.
That would spoil the taste of fruit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like buying eggs over there. You buy eggs on base and they're all treated. But every couple months you had to try a fried egg. Oh, bad. And the yolk's almost white instead of yellow.
From the bleach?
No, from the chickens getting fed so bad. I mean, they eat very, very poor. There's nothing to waste. To them that eat meat a couple times a week, they're doing good. And we eat meat like it's going out of style, but they're poor, and we don't realize what poor is.
Huh.
They don't waste anything. They would go through our garbage looking for anything, crawling in our garbage to see anything. Boy, I'm running you out of tape here.
Oh, no. No, it's fascinating.
Did your wife have access to a market on base where it was?
Yes, there was still a commissary on base, and commissary and BX on base and that kind of stuff. But downtown, the women would get together if they would go shopping without the men. And the women would get together, and a lot of people would be following them around.
They'd be safer than
look at them women. You could see their butts. With the Turks, they're not used to that. Your hair is too short. They'd be following you around. They can see your neck. My God.
I mean, they're following you around to look at you?
To look at you, and you're a curiosity. There's one of those Americans, one of those rich Americans. And especially the women, you should have seen them hanging around the swimming pool. Now you got the Turks. Remember, it was a combined base, Turkish and American, and actually the Turks owned the base. So we bowed to the Turks. Yeah. The swimming pool with the American women wearing a swimming suit. They're pretty much separated. Boys and girls are separated probably at the age of 12, or maybe even younger than that. So
they never see any
very little contact. They don't even know what's under there, I don't think.
Until their father tells them, you're going to be married tomorrow, and this is what they're doing.
Yeah, it was a...
But tell me about this, the Turkish soldiers that were on the base would be hanging around your swimming pool?
Oh, yeah. They'd just be dying over at the swimming pool looking at these American women. Just...
That's something they've never seen before in their life.
And that gives them the idea that the American women are loose. Yeah, they're... look, they'll run around half naked in front of everybody.
No one...
And their husband lets them.
Right, so obviously there's a simple conclusion to come to.
Yeah. That, and then, of course, there was always the problem with the heat being so bad, and there was a lot of old trailers that came in there from Libya. So a lot of the American women were running around nude in the houses, and once in a while would get seen.
Oh boy.
You know, but you know the temperature is 116, and you're living under a tin roof. You know, it's got to be pretty warm.
Was that heat moist or just
Yeah,
dry?
very moist.
So it's just the worst possible condition.
Yeah.
As worse as bad as Vietnam.
Oh, I think so. Yes, I think so. And when we first got over there, then somebody blew up the transformer on base, so that we had no power on base. So
Wonderful.
we're living at the transit quarters was a tin building that's supposed to be air conditioned. And you know, air conditioned buildings that are designed for air conditioning have very few windows and doors and stuff like that. So there's everybody with their wife and kids living in these things.
And tin roof heating it up even more.
Right. So when nighttime would roll around, everybody'd be sitting in the hallways or outside, and you could literally drink a 6-pack of beer and not know you ever drank a 6-pack of beer, and you don't got to go to can either.
Right.
Because it took quite a while for your body to get accustomed to the heat. But the new people were real easy to figure. Big wet rings around their arms, down your chest, down your back, your crotch, your butt, behind your knees. You just run in water.
Until after you're there for a while.
Yeah. After a few months, you kind of got used to it. But if you did much in the way of manual labor, oh wow.
And your wife, your marriage survived.
Oh yes, made it better, made it
Didn't
stronger.
want to go back home.
No, that was either a make or break place.
She must be a stout.
You had to get along with your spouse. You had to talk to your spouse because you didn't have too many other people to talk to. What little TV and radio we had was very old.
When you got housing on the base, though, didn't you have a little group did things together?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't have things to do like you do here. Things to do there were get together, play cards, go for a walk. Lots of going for a walk. Go ride your bicycle. You know, things like that. Very, very close to those people.
No
we
movies?
stay in contact with most of them. Yeah.
Must be movies.
Yeah. Most of the stuff was quite a few years old though.
Oh.
We never got anything that was new. TV, the soap operas, which most women watch, and my sister used to send me when I was in Korea, so I was very popular. She would take notes on all my children and send me the things, and everybody'd come over to get the notes from that. All the women that were stationed there.
To find out what went on?
Yeah, what went on, because it was up to date.
Who divorced who?
Yeah, you know, and I just couldn't. Well, anyway, you know, so you know, most of that stuff was so outdated. You didn't go to that stuff. Bowling was very big. Kids sports. You'd get hundreds of people at a kid's baseball game. Hundreds of people. Or a football game. That was really big time stuff.
And Matthews, football.
Oh yeah.
What about the USO now? Did they come over there?
I
didn't think so.
No.
They didn't want them, or couldn't. The Turks wouldn't let them in, probably.
Yeah, it was a very hard country to get in and out of. It took a long time just to like get your vehicle cleared. One of my buddies, his van came in, and you get like a Turkish registration for it. They're going to put a number off the engine. It might be the firing order or whatever, but they're going to take down a number. And you better watch them and know what number they took down, because when you leave, you got to leave with that same vehicle, that same engine. And then on this title, it also describes the vehicle and says what color it is. When it was time for him to leave, his color didn't jive.
This is for the Turkish officials?
Yeah, so we could ship it through them. We had to ship it. We had to get through the Turks to ship it back home.
But any discrepancy would give the Turks a reason to keep it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keep it or you're going to pay. And it cost him, I forget how many bottles of booze, and forget, there was a brand of cigarettes that was very popular. I think Pall Mall Gold, I think it was. So a few cartons of those for him to get it out of the country. You know, but who knows what? Do you know what Turkish?
Is for brown.
You know, my Volkswagen was Portugal Creme. It was cream colored, and Portugal, I think, is orange. But the taxes on that were $25,000 on my Volkswagen, my '78 Volkswagen bus.
What do you mean?
That's if I would have sold it to a Turk, or if I didn't have it, it's going to cost me
to get it back
$25,000 where I can leave. If I don't have that vehicle, I'm going to pay that. When you get to Turkey, they have a thing called Bayanami list, and that Bayanami list is everything they think is worth anything. And that's no lie. A guy comes and sits in your house that you're kissing his ass as much as you can, and giving him whatever he wants, and he's writing down as they're unpacking stuff. He is writing down what you brought into the country. Okay, now for an example, one of the things I had over there, I had a dryer that went belly up. Oh, was it a dryer or a wash machine? I don't know. It was either a wash machine or a dryer that died. I was there for a year and it was gone. I go to base, say, hey, can I get rid of this thing? Take it to the dump, get it off my Bayanami list.
Spell that word.
Oh, Bayanami, I don't know how that would be spelled.
With an O-B, is that what you're saying? Okay.
It would be B-A-Y, Bayanami.
Okay. Right.
And I told him, get it off my list, send it to the dump. Turks got to approve it. They weren't about to approve it. That flew back home with me. That went on a C5 and got shipped back home, and who knows how many dollars a pound. But that came back. They would sometimes your blue jeans, they would be put down on your list. They would count them when you left. Maybe your dishes are going to be on there. You break one, keep it. But bicycles, very expensive, again, they would be on the list.
Being an excuse for them to extract money from you, really, is what we're talking about.
And they were afraid that you were going to sell something downtown and they weren't going to get the taxes on it. And their taxes are extremely high. We have very low taxes in this country compared to any place I've ever been. Including England was another place, taxes are very high. But most socialist countries are like that. Socialist countries are dictatorships or whatever. But it was, we had a lot of fun there together, though.
And your work went about the same, or is that pretty?
Oh yeah, work is always work.
Is that just like Pittsburgh, only under more adverse conditions?
A lot more people there. It was the first place I was ever at where we had women working in the comm center, in the job that I did.
Military?
Yes, where there were military women there.
That's your first experience with a female soldier?
Well, first one's working for me there, yes. Like that, yeah.
How'd that go?
Oh, that took some getting used to because you had to really keep the reins in on the young guys. Now you got to remember, you're in Turkey, forever away from home, and the only women there are that they can possibly date or talk to are the American ones. And they were very, very popular, and they were good-looking girls too. Yeah. They were both married, so that makes things even tougher. You know, now, hey, leave her alone, she's married. Watch how you're talking.
Is that you saying to the soldier? You felt obliged to discipline him in that regard? Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. I've always been that way. Somebody works for me, they're like my kids.
Right, but that's a personal thing. There was no order from higher up.
Oh, no, no.
You just did that on your own.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I would even explain to them, you know, that, hey, don't let these guys get away with it.
You know,
even if it is joking around,
because don't tolerate anything.
Yeah, because it can get out of hand really quick. And you can't have that in a place like that where you're working so close. Because that's another one of those things where everybody knows everybody and what everybody is doing. And believe me, I was
going to say, with that super secret stuff, that's even more of a problem.
Yeah. But it was another good place. I enjoyed most every place I've been at, and of course, after a while, you remember the good things and forget about the bad a lot. Bad isn't worth remembering anyway. And the wife and I and my kids, we talk about Turkey quite a bit yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the only place my oldest son ever got a B. He got a B in Spanish because the teacher thought that he could do better, even though he was the top Spanish student she had. So when he graduated school out in California, he was the second in his class because of that B. But he's a major in the Air Force now.
Oh, really?
He's a doctor. I think my kids are all very intelligent. My oldest one, he's a doctor. My daughter Julie, she's a special ed teacher, degree in special ed. Darren has a degree. He's a med tech. Works in a hospital. You know, does the tests on blood and tissue and that kind of stuff, like a chemist kind of thing. And my youngest one, he's in college for bookkeeping and accounting, and I think a lot of that can go back to service, their experiences and stuff in service and what they all learned from there.
Traveling is such an education.
They learned to make friends.
Yeah.
Kevin was 17, he had a slot.
All the undergrads I've ever known are always personable.
Yeah.
Very personal people.
Otherwise you don't get any friends. You gotta
make them right away. Yeah. So.
And I'm that way. I think from the military, I feel very bad if people don't like me.
Yeah,
if a vet comes in here and thinks that I'm the cause of his problems, I do anything
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So after Turkey.
After Turkey, where'd I go? After Turkey, went to California.
Okay. Oh, geez, that's a
Castle Air Force Base. No, wait a minute. Yeah, Castle in California. Yeah. Oh yeah, big time contrast. There I'm the record comm maintenance superintendent. I've got crypto maintenance, DESTI maintenance, teletype maintenance, and SAX maintenance working for me. Plus I'm
still just a master sergeant?
Yep. Couldn't get any higher because I have
warrants? Didn't you have a chance to get a warrant?
No, Air Force does not have warrants.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And I couldn't make senior chief because I couldn't go to any of the senior NCO academies. I have a bad mitral valve, and as a matter of fact, they tried to throw me out of service when I was stationed in England. When I was 25, that's when that was first discovered. Although I can still do anything anybody else can, but they said, well, you can't go. So there, I had additional duties. I was base ComSec officer. I worked for the general on base. I worked for the my squadron commander. I also worked for the chief of maintenance as the record comm maintenance superintendent, and I was also squadron safety officer. So it's just piles upon piles of.
So how long in California then?
That was about 4 years, and then it was time for my son to go to college, and he was 17, and I love my family, and I'm not going to let him get away. And the Air Force wanted to send me back to school because radio maintenance was short of 7 levels, middle management, middle NCOs, middle grade NCOs, and they wanted me to go back to school and become a radio maintenance, to run a radio shop somewhere. I was tired of going to school, and tired of. I would have been the ranking man in the shop, but I would have been the lowest as far as skill levels goes on that equipment, because you have to work your way up 3, 5, 7, 9 level. And I was kind of burned out. California burned me out. I owned more B-52s and KC-135s than anybody else in the world. And I was a master sergeant.
You owned them?
Mm-hmm.
How do you mean?
I was signed for them, and all the classified that was on them.
By signing for them, exactly what was that? To release them for operations, or I mean?
No, somebody always has to own them. Somebody is always responsible for them on some base. Okay, they're mine, and they're mine because it's classified, and I'm the ranking classified guy on base. I'm filling a major slot.
This has been standard practice for a long time?
Yes. I'm filling a major slot as the base ComSec officer.
You're doing major's work?
Yes.
I'm a master sergeant.
I report directly to the wing commander, who's a general. I walk into the general's office, and the general's secretary would interrupt him, no matter who he had in there, and say, "General, Sergeant Choi is here to see you." I mean, that was the good for ego, but very bad on nerves, very bad stress-wise.
Because
of the power, the power you have, and the responsibility you have. The responsibility probably more than anything.
And in which direction here?
Okay, now if you're the base ComSec officer, you are ultimately responsible for all classified that's on the base.
Okay.
All the classified documents.
That's what you're trained for. You're not trained for keeping track of the parts on the B-52.
Yeah, but my original training is for maintaining that equipment. That's what my job is. I'm doing an additional duty that it is now against Air Force regs for me to do. And that was the reason it got to be against Air Force regs.
Okay.
Because they were taking somebody out of maintenance and putting him in operations.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have my little corner of the world where I had all my little classified,
Sure.
which is still quite a bit. But instead of owning everybody's, I would just have my squadrons, you know. But I had 20-some colonels that reported to me, and I'd walk in their office and they'd go get me a cup of coffee, and people just couldn't understand it. But I literally had the power to have them in jail that day.
On what basis?
On security, not protecting my classified.
Like what might they do?
Maybe a document's missing.
Something, a classified document is missing, and that came from your desk.
And I signed it to them. Here, Colonel, here's your classified for the month. Sign these.
Right.
And page check them. Okay, now I've got my thing. Okay, now I go to do an inspection. Okay, Colonel, I'm here. You know, you don't announce those. Open up your safe.
I want to see that piece of paper.
Well, I want to see those documents, and I mean, we got in, put it this way, a lot. You know, it's not a piece of paper, things like that. It's many documents to many people. It's amazing how much stuff there is out there like that. But it would be, okay, I've got my inventory. I know what he has.
Right.
I know what is bad that's supposed to have been destroyed and what isn't supposed to be, what's supposed to be being used now, what isn't. Who he can issue stuff to, who he can't. And I can check his inventory. And every time he opens up that safe, he better inventory every item that's in that safe. And sign it off. And inventory the pages on the documents.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, it can be a real headache, but
It takes a while to do that.
Oh yeah, you should see when we would have to do ours, which was the main unit. Our walk-in safe was bigger than these two rooms, much bigger, probably twice this size. It was loaded with nothing but safes containing classified, because we were it for the whole base. Anybody that had any classified came from us.
So when you check on these generals, your purpose was to make sure that everything was tidy? I mean, that's what you're...
Yes, that's what I'm there for. Yeah. And to make sure I'm also the one that trains them so that they know how they're going to be taking care of their classified. Air Force Reg 2051, and then some classified ComSec documents.
So if he falters, then you have power to discipline him.
Yeah, power to go to the general and say, "Hey, General,
we need you for a while in this room."
Yeah. Or if you'd lose an airplane. And we'd lose a B-52 would crash somewhere, or one of our fighters would crash somewhere.
Yeah. And then what?
Then there's a real serious amount of documentation.
Does that mean Russell's at fault?
No, that means Russell's got a lot of work to do. Because now we have all this classified that isn't there anymore.
How about all
that is possibly compromised?
All that classified stuff on that airplane. How do you deal with that?
That
was your responsibility.
Yeah. Now we start the paperwork now, which gets involved.
Who would you send out to that crash site?
That would already be done.
Oh.
The Air Force would already have that secured as soon as it went down.
Because they want to get that stuff on the plane.
My main thing would be to report what would be on the plane.
And make sure they got it out before.
Well, not so much that. It would be so that everybody knew what is now possibly compromised.
Code-wise.
This stuff ain't no good no more.
Right. B-52 goes down, change the codes. Right? Not only for that base, but for the entire Air Force?
It would depend on what the plane was carrying.
I see.
It could be a lot, it could be a little.
It could be, though. The entire Air Force would have to change numbers.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's a lot of things can happen when classified goes wrong. You know, when they catch a spy.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, anything... The way the stuff works on classified, if there's any particular document or piece of equipment that gets compromised, whoever uses that equipment wherever, theirs is compromised also if they're using the same stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so, that's like if somebody invents something and they keep it kind of confidential how they're making it. once somebody finds out about it, everybody starts making it.
Right.
And then what you make ain't too good anymore. But it was a fun job as I look back at it, if you passed the stress part. But
so then what'd you do? About retire?
that was it. I came back here, went to school.
Back then, oh.
Back to Merrill. Actually, I lived in Wausau, went to school there, and had a couple part-time jobs while I was going to school.
Oh, you used your GI Bill at long last?
Mm-hmm. Using my GI Bill, this job came open. My predecessor committed suicide.
From the stress?
I'd be surprised how much of that there is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Especially Vietnam era, Korean era.
Well, there's one paranoid anyway.
Real serious amount of
paranoia.
Yeah. But anyway, that job comes open and I apply for it. There's 100. That sounds like I'm bragging again. 130 people or so apply for the job, and I'm the one that, at first, I thought unlucky enough to get it. Yeah. I thought a nice, easy job. I was going to get a job where I didn't have to push papers.
A cushy job to sit that.
Push papers.
Yeah. That's all I do is push papers. Solve problems. But those are fun stuff. Make somebody happy. That's what makes the world go round.
Sure. So, looking back, pleased with your career?
Oh, yes. That was probably the smartest thing I ever did, was go into service and stay in the service. Be surprised the number of people I get that come in this office and say, boy, I wish I'd have stayed in service, or how come the military isn't drafting? I wish my son would go in service. I think the military is something that really makes people grow up. In a way, I wish they would go back to the draft, or even make it so that once you got out of high school, you got 2 years of doing the military minimum.
My theory would be 2 years of doing something for your government. I don't care what it is.
Something where there's some discipline involved and responsibility.
Right.
Because so many young people nowadays have, they have nothing to do. They have a lot given to them. Of course, that's part of the problem, I think, with the young militaries. They have a lot given to them that they didn't before.
But what are we going to do about the people aren't going in the military now? How's that going to be solved?
The military's reputation is going to have to change. They're going to have to change what's going on in the military now. My son, that's a doctor, could tell you some real good stories about what goes on in the military and how they won't let people out because they're so short of people. One of his friends has MS. Military would discharge you, wouldn't they?
No.
He's a doctor. They can't afford to let him go. I have people that come in here. They're half the aircraft that they have on their base isn't flyable because they don't have parts for it.
Or pilots, maybe.
Well, pilots is somewhat of a problem, but there's still a lot of people want to be a pilot. The military still trains most of the pilots. The young pilots they have, but the older ones have a tendency to get out and go work for the commercial.
The commercials pay them so much money that the service can't compete with the jobs that the airlines offer them. They make big money.
Oh yes, the military makes people very valuable on the outside. You know, if you learn a skill, if you learn a skill in service, you're worth a lot of money
because they know that you're well trained,
and you have some discipline. After all, if you make it for your 4 years in the military and you have an honorable discharge, that means that you can follow instructions and get along with people. Because if you don't get along with people, the military is going to get rid of you.
Yeah. A lot easier probably than civilian life.
Civilian life, I don't think people are used to taking orders or being responsible for something. Saying, hey, your butt's going to swing if you don't take care of this.
Right.
And that's part of what I miss about the military is saying, okay, now this needs to be done,
right,
and we're going to do it. I'm still used to I can get along with government fairly well, where a lot of department heads maybe can't, because I'm used to, okay, now they come down with this crap, we know it's a bunch of bull, but it's a lot easier to do it than to try to fight the system and carry that on your shoulders for forever. Now this is stupid what we're doing, but let's take care of it, and then we'll work another way around doing it and see if we can find it. Instead of blowing up and saying, oh, God damn it, I'm not going to do it.
Then you don't make any progress at all, any direction.
Yeah.
And what awards did you win, decorations, with all this charging around the world?
God.
Besides unit citations, which I'm sure you run several of those.
Highest decoration I got is MSM. Meritorious Service.
Meritorious Service.
I've got, what do I got? 3 Air Force Commendation ribbons.
Good.
Oh, of course, longevity, good conduct, expert marksmanship, Vietnam service, Vietnam campaign.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, there's a lot of them. I never paid much attention to them.
Well, you certainly had a fascinating career.
Oh, I had a good time in service. I can talk and talk and talk about it.
I love it. Have you run out of stories?
Oh, I suppose I could run out of stories, yeah.
Is there something, before I turn this off, there's something you missed telling me?
Yeah, we can survive with what you got. I can probably get in enough trouble with that.
No trouble.
Yeah.
No, Ray won't say anything. You didn't say anything bad about the service anyway.
Yeah. I get along good with WDVA. I'm one of the good guys, actually.
Right.
Of course, that's my military, long-time military. Of course, a lot of the service officers have been in. A lot of the veteran service officers are retirees, military retirees.
Oh, you got 25 years in?
21.
21 years. So
In the
you retired
military.
at 3/4 pay?
No, I get about 51%.
What is that?
20 years is 51% of base pay.
Which is?
Oh, what I'm getting right now?
Yeah.
God, I don't even know. That goes right to the bank and the wife spends it. When I got out, it was $600 and some a month.
As a master sergeant. 600 a month.
Yeah. So that's what my retirement was. So I was making probably $1,200 a month then.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's probably close to twice that now.
Yeah.
Because with pay raises,
that's right.
Pay raises keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
That pays my house payment, pays my car payment, and pays my taxes. Otherwise, I couldn't afford to have this job. And I've got. This is the 15th year? Now this is the 14th year of kids in college straight. And I've got
14 years?
of kids in college, and this fall my youngest one goes back again.
Well, you got 2 other physicians, so they get into civilian life, you tell them I want some of that back.
Yeah. Their wives, my oldest one, the one that's a doctor, he said, as I always teased him about money and they could make my house payment and stuff like that. When he graduated from med school, he said, Dad, he said, you know, he says, I could probably do that. He says, I could probably make your house payment. I said, don't worry about it. I says, by the time you're making money, I says, your wife will know what to do with that money. When he was interning, he got married.
Yeah.
And of course, being in the service, he doesn't, what does he make? He's got major pay, which is probably $35,000, $40,000, and his bonus is $30,000 for being a doctor.
Yeah, when I was in Korea, he said I got double bonus. One for being a medic, and one for being in the Korean War Theater.
Ah, okay.
So an extra $400 a month.
Ooh, that's big time money then, too.
It sure was.
Yeah. It's like when I was stationed in England first, I was drawing P3 pay.
I don't know.
We're pro pay.
I don't know what that.
Specialized career fields where it cost them a lot of money and experience.
Oh.
So they give you more money to stay in. So I was drawing, the max P3 pay in the Army was $300. Everybody else it was $300, but Air Force is cheap. They paid us $50 for every P. So I got $150 a month extra. So there as a, see, I left there as a tech, but as a staff sergeant, I was making more money than a senior, than an E8 was making because of that. And then all of a sudden they start taking that away. So that was 3 years without a pay raise. $50 they'd take away 1 year, and then the next year was another $50 a month, and the next year another $50. But now the military gets paid fairly decent. But my son, the doctor, he could be making $250,000 a year on the outside. He's an anesthesiologist. No, that's what.
Oh, anesthesia.
Yeah, that's what he's been off. He makes a good $1,000 a day part time.
He likes living in California?
No, he's not in California. Oh. He's at Wright-Patterson, Ohio. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Oh, yeah. Where all the big planes are. We've been there.
Yeah, and a lot of generals around that place.
What's the implication here? They're retiring and taking full pay and
active duty.
Nothing?
Active duty.
Yeah.
Active duty generals. Oh yeah, there's a.
They don't need generals in the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They don't need that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean.
In most bases, there's. Well, of course, the military. The military has to have amount of what do you want to call it? Extra. You need that overlap, because in case something happens, like right now, I mean, active duty can't take care of it. No, you got to call up the Guard and Reserve, and they really whine. I mean, they come in here and I want my husband home. He's been gone 3 weeks already.
3 weeks? And you say, listen, sister, right, let me tell you something.
But a lot of them do quite well on that. But, you know, it's tough for the...
Yeah, I know, but those are second jobs. I mean, you know, they can whine all they want, but the Guard money is not their primary purpose, and so all that is extra beyond what they make otherwise. So.
And we got a lot of those guys retired nowadays. Okay.